Chapter 1956. Old Madame Ye's expression made Yi Qian even more certain that she knew something about his mother's sacrifice. He was even more certain that she had something to do with his mother's sacrifice. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so scared. If he continued to question her, Old Madame Yi would definitely suspect something. No matter how much he wanted to get something out of her, he had to hold it in for now. He had to take things slowly. Furthermore, what he said just now had successfully made her think that he knew something. Based on his understanding of this old woman, she would definitely take action next. Old Madame Ye's heart would be even more ruthless and hardened. In order to get rid of a future threat like her, she would either tell Sun Yaozu or Yi Zhifan about what happened today so that they could deal with her. She would tell Sun Yaozu as soon as possible. Sun Yaozu already hated her to the bone. If he knew that she had found out about what happened in the past, he would definitely take action. As long as Sun Yaozu took action against her, it would be her chance. In her previous life, she didn't have the ability to seek justice for herself. In this life, she would definitely take revenge for all the suffering she had suffered in both lives. She would laugh as she watched old Madame Ye's family and Yi Zhifan's family fall from the clouds into the mud. Looking at the old woman who had completely lost her ability to move, but her mouth was still unforgiving, Yi Qian's murderous eyes flashed with a cold light. His gaze became even more terrifying. Save your energy. I just told you that people who have suffered a stroke should be calmer. In your case, it's only a matter of time before you have a second stroke. If you have a second stroke, I hope you won't leave so soon. It's better for you to stay in bed for the rest of your life. Yi Qian spoke calmly, revealing a look of contempt that old Madame Yi couldn't stand. I'm sure you're willing to live a life where you can't move your hands, can't speak, and have someone feed you when you eat or drink. Old Madame Yi, who had always thought of herself as high and mighty, naturally couldn't stand Yi Qian's contempt. When she heard him curse her again, she was furious and her limbs twitched even more uncontrollably. She really wanted to stand up and slap the bastard who dared to curse her. Unfortunately, she couldn't even speak properly, let alone stand up. Back then, you bullied my father because he was too obedient. It's a pity that he didn't see your current miserable state. If he did, he would be happy. Have a good rest. When I go to see my father tomorrow, I'll mention your current miserable state and what kind of miserable state you'll be in the future. My father and mother were killed by your family. How can I watch you live a good life? I only hope that you will be tortured and live a life worse than death. The cold and murderous words were like a sharp knife that ruthlessly pierced into old Madame Ye's heart, as if it had pierced a big, empty hole. A heart-piercing cold wind blew past, instantly extinguishing the raging flames of anger, and her heart began to feel anxious. Did that bastard Yi Qian know something? Did he discover something? Otherwise, why would she say that one killed her father and the other killed her mother? That's right. That's what she said before. She even brought a photo over to scare her and Zhixiang. Zhixiang was easily frightened and screamed when she saw Yi Zhifan's photo. Zhixiang's actions last time must have made this bastard completely suspicious. While she was lying in the hospital, Sun Yaozu and Yi Zhifan were fighting openly and covertly. He secretly investigated on his own. Chapter 1957. She must have found something by now. That's right. She must have found something. I can't let this be *starred live anymore. I can't let her live anymore. He had to kill her. He had to kill her. Only by killing her can Zhixiang's family be safe. Otherwise, she will pester Zhixiang to death. She might even harm my two precious grandsons. Although old Madame Ye's body was paralyzed and her brain wasn't as good as before, she didn't completely go on strike. She looked at Yi Qian, who had grown to the point where she couldn't control him anymore. Seeing that he wanted to stand up for Yi Zhifan and Sun Xueqing, who had died early, old Madame Yi, who was anxious just a second ago, suddenly laughed crookedly. Her laughter flowed out of her mouth. It was like the strange laughter of a person who lived in darkness and damp all year round and was filled with malice. Just **starred. She really thinks she's someone important. Old Madame Yi had never liked Yi Qian, not even for a moment. She stared fixedly at Yi Qian, who was now so arrogant that he could make her angry. Old Madame Ye's mouth moved a few times. Suddenly, she spat out a mouthful of thick phlegm at Yi Qian. Seeing Yi Qian nimbly dodge, Old Madame Yi gripped the wheelchair's armrest tightly. Her face and eyes were filled with malice. Yi Qian, do you know why I don't like you? Because you're a B asterisk starred. You're the B asterisk starred your mother gave birth to outside. She spoke in a hurry, so her words were even more unclear. However, Yi Qian heard everything clearly. Hearing this, his gaze suddenly sharpened. He stared at the old woman who couldn't even walk and was still acting like a tyrant. What did you just say? The ferocious-looking old Madame Yi looked at Yi Qian, whose expression had changed. Her upper lips trembled uncontrollably as she let out an unpleasant cackle. I said, your mother's be asterisk tsich outside. Martyr? Cackle, cackle. Your mother is such a promiscuous slut. How can she be a martyr? Old Madame Yi was overjoyed and said happily, let me go like a bastard. Tui. Yi Qian, who was about to leave, narrowed his eyes. He squatted down again and looked at old Madame Yi with a gloomy expression. So, you scolded me because of this? What right do you have to talk about my mother? What right do you have? Boss is a good-for-nothing. He clearly knows that his wife gave birth to a bastard, but he doesn't even dare to sleep with her. I raised him up, but he didn't listen to me and strangled a bastard like you. You want me to treat him well? Bah, just a piece of trash. The gloomier Yi Qian's expression became, the more comfortable old Madame Yi felt. Strange laughter kept coming out of her throat. A martyr with a lover. How ironic. Shut up. Yi Qian could not tolerate such a vicious person slandering her mother. The killing intent that she had been suppressing grew again. She reached out and grabbed old Madame Ye's neck. She gritted her teeth and said fiercely, those who slander my mother die. Come, come, come. Strangle me to death, you strangle, ye girl. The door of the ward behind her was pushed open with a bang. Principal Chen's angry voice shook the air. What are you doing? Stop it. Strangle me to death. Strangle me. Old Madame Ye's laughter was unusually loud. She continued to provoke Yi Qian fiercely. You're not. Boss's child. You're a bastard. Ha ha. You want to make my life difficult? Bastard. Let's see who's the one who's going to suffer. Chapter 1958. You're a bastard. Your mother gave birth to you with another man. Your father is a good-for-nothing. He knew that you weren't his child, but he still raised you. Old Madame Ye's continuous curses seemed to come from the void, expanding in circles. When they reached the ears, they all swarmed in like a whirlwind, squeezing into the brain in an instant. It was incomparably sharp, piercing the brain and causing pain. Yi Qian, whose eyes were red, glared at the old woman whose face was completely distorted. He gritted his teeth and wanted to bite her throat so that she could no longer speak and say those vicious words. Little Yi, she wants to destroy you. Are you really going to let her destroy you? Principal Chun held Yi Qian's wrist tightly. His gaze was as sharp as a knife. Do you know that your loved ones will be hurt and your enemies will be happy? Where did your rationality go? Where did your calmness go? Principal Chun scolded in a low voice. He didn't want old Madame Yi, who was like a mad dog, to hear him scolding Yi Qian. He wanted her to be happy. He was really glad today. He suddenly wanted to contact Chief Kai to ask about the progress of the investigation into martyr son Xueqing's death. He wanted to see if he could leak some information to Little Yi. It was also because of this phone call that he found out that Little Yi and Chief Kai had been in contact for a long time. He also found out who the eyepiece on the dagger in martyr son Xueqing's hand belonged to. When Chief Kai found out that Little Yi didn't leak any information to him, he immediately said, "Oh no," and asked him to come out and find Little Yi immediately. After searching for a few hours and taking a big detour, he finally found Caesar Hotel. When he knocked on the door, he bumped into Caesar's boss, Jose. With his help, he successfully found the hospital. Principal Chun, who ran until his forehead was sweating, was anxious and angry. His voice was several times stricter than before. Little Yi, If I came even a little later, you would have committed a heinous crime. Do you know that? Ye girl had always been calm. No matter how big the matter was, she would not lose her mind completely. However, the situation was different this time. The old woman of the Yi family had coincidentally made Yi girl, who had just found out that Sun Yaozu was related to the sacrifice of martyr son Xueqing, suddenly lose her mind. No child could bear the humiliation of their parents, not to mention the humiliation of the enemy who had killed their parents. Even if a saint was alive, he would not be able to bear it. Moreover, Granny Yi was truly detestable. Every word she said was disrespectful. Wake up, Yi girl. Do you remember what I said to you before I died? Look at you now. Are you worthy of this old uncle? Principal Chun was obviously really angry. He even mentioned Uncle General. When Yi Qian heard the words Uncle Gen, her muddled mind suddenly cleared up. She looked up and seemed to have realized who was holding her back. Uncle Chun, she scolded my mother. I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. She's the only one who's collapsed on the bed. Do you still need me to clean her up? The person you want to deal with isn't here. Do you understand? Seeing her eyes gradually clear up, Principal Chun heaved a sigh of relief. He looked at Granny Yi, who was laughing maniacally. He lowered his voice and said, She's not important at all. If you want to strangle her to death today, you'll have fallen in her trap. Granny Yi's expression just now clearly showed that she wanted to drag Yi girl down with her. She wanted to completely destroy Yi girl. Yi Qian gently closed her eyes and forced back the tears in her eyes. I know, Uncle Chun. Let go first. I want to ask her a few questions. She wanted to ask if what she said just now was true. Chapter 1959. Yi Qian knew that he had lost his composure, but he had already restrained himself. He hadn't really killed this vicious old woman. Faced with Uncle Chin's reprimand, Yi Qian didn't regret his loss of composure, nor did he regret strangling old Madame Ye's neck. As a child, if he didn't do anything when someone insulted his parents, how could he be a child? Seeing that Principal Chun didn't intend to let go of his wrist, Yi Qian swallowed back his salty tears and said, Uncle Chun, Yi girl has never disappointed you or me. Even if she lost her composure and did something unwise, I still tolerated it. You know that with my skills, if I really wanted old Madame Yi to die, I wouldn't even have to strangle her neck. All I would have to do is twist her head. Uncle Chun, I'm very angry, but I know how to control myself. After all, my status restricts my actions, and I can't make any mistakes. I won't do anything that would make my enemies happy. I will never do that. Principal Chun thought for a moment, then slowly retracted his hand. That's right. With Yi girl's skills, if she really wanted to kill old Madame Yi, she wouldn't have to go through the trouble of strangling her. She could have just twisted her neck. But what she wanted to ask, sigh, he could answer her. Don't ask any more, girl. She's right. You are indeed not your father's daughter. Your father is infertile. Back then, your mother chose to marry your father because she knew he was infertile. Girl, you really aren't Yi Xinfan's daughter. Your parents are only married, but they aren't husband and wife. Uncle Chen's words made Yi Qian, who had gradually calmed down, narrow his eyes. He looked up at Principal Chun in shock and disbelief. What did you say? Your father and mother got together because of me. It was your mother who found me and asked me to find an honest and reliable man of the same age in the same village. So I found your father. Principal Chin knew that she actually heard it very clearly, but she just couldn't accept it at the moment. Principal Chin glanced at old Madame Yi, who was still laughing strangely, and looked kindly at Yi Qian. He sighed softly and said, Your father didn't dare to agree, but old Madame Yi did. He secretly went to your mother and told her about his situation. He thought that your mother would refuse, but unexpectedly, your mother agreed. Even Uncle Chun doesn't know what happened between your parents. Uncle Chun only learned about it from your mother's diary. If you want to know, Uncle Chun can bring it to you when he returns to the village. This diary was personally delivered by Chief Kai. Principal Chin's words completely shattered Yi Qian's last hope. He stood there in a daze, as if he had lost his soul. She was actually not her father's daughter? Then whose daughter was she? No wonder old Madame Yi called her a bastard child. She already knew that she wasn't her father's daughter. Then who is my father? Yi Qian, whose eyes were blank, asked in a daze. It didn't seem like a question, but more like a sentence that he didn't even know what he said. Principal Chen couldn't answer who Yi Qian's father was because he didn't know either. Martyr son Xueqing's diary didn't mention it in her comrade's safekeeping. Chapter 1960. Old Madame Yi, who was sitting in her wheelchair, looked at Yi Qian, who was standing a few steps away from her. Her eyes were filled with disappointment. That wretched girl was becoming more and more tolerant. She could actually hold herself back from humiliating son Xueqing like this. The laughter in old Madame Yi's throat didn't stop, but her heart was sinking. That wretched girl who could hold herself back had already become a big problem. Back then, she was worried that if she killed son Xueqing's illegitimate child immediately after her death, she would be criticized by the villagers. Moreover, Yi Zhifan, the white wolf, convinced her to keep the illegitimate child. She was so obsessed that she really kept the illegitimate child. She regretted it so much, so much. She should have thrown son Xueqing to her death back then. Falling to her death would have eliminated all future troubles. If she had fallen to her death, today's events wouldn't have happened, and she wouldn't have to worry about the bastard's revenge in the future. Now, the bastard was no longer the little girl who could be bullied by others. She had already become a big problem that made her afraid and anxious. No, she couldn't hold back anymore. Either Yi Zhifan would do it, or her son-in-law would do it himself. She had to see the bastard die while she was still alive to be at ease. She had to see the bastard die before she could leave with peace of mind. Old Madame Yi, who had thought of 10,000 ways to make Yi Qian die on the streets, stared darkly at Yi Qian, then at Principal Chen. For a moment, old Madame Yi hated Principal Chen again. The principal of this town's middle school was also a busybody. Just now, he had appeared in time and ruined her plan. Old Madame Yi couldn't hear what Principal Chen was saying in a low voice. She glared at Principal Chen a few times in anger and raised her trembling hand to touch her neck. She didn't pinch too hard, so there shouldn't be any handprints left. If there were, she would have a way to ruin the bastard's reputation. Her gloomy and calculating gaze made Principal Chen involuntarily sweep his sharp gaze over. A sniper's gaze was undoubtedly frightening. Old Madame Yi, who was caught in the eye, was so frightened that she couldn't breathe properly. Waves of violent coughs came from her throat. Yi Qian slowly turned around. His eyes, so dark that they seemed to be able to swallow everything, stared straight at old Madame Yi. Step by step, he walked up to the old woman who had done evil all her life. He said softly, "I will make your family pay for all the pain I've suffered." It was very light, but the smell of blood inside was so thick that one could almost smell it. "Bastard, what are you trying to do?" Old Madame Yi was shocked and angry at the same time. Even though she was still putting up a strong front, her paralyzed eyes had already revealed her true thoughts. She realized that Yi Qian's family included her two most beloved grandsons, Yi Lei and Sun Jiaqing. That was why she asked Yi Qian what he wanted to do. "I want to do what you're most afraid of." Yi Qian coldly spat out a few words, then ignored the struggling old woman. He turned to Principal Chen and said, "Uncle Chen, let's go." She knew enough. She could stop here for today. Next, she quietly waited for Sun Yaozu or Yi Zhifan to come. After leaving the hospital, Principal Chen didn't blame Yi Qian. When they returned to Caesar Hotel and walked out of the revolving door, a man in a suit who looked like a hotel attendant immediately came to greet them. He respectfully said to Yi Qian, "Miss Yi, Zigu invites you to his office." He glanced at Principal Chen and said, "He also invited the person beside you to come with us." Hosie's office was on the top floor of the hotel. The hotel's guest elevator hadn't arrived yet, but there was a special elevator that led directly to the top floor. Chapter 1961. When the elevator doors opened, they could see the bulletproof glass door. The man pushed the card open and invited Yi Qian and Principal Chen to enter. He then stood at the elevator entrance and waited. Josie had been waiting for Yi Qian in the office. The moment Yi Qian stepped into the hotel, he received the news. He personally brewed tea and served it to Principal Chun. He smiled and said, "Please have some tea. I'll talk to Xiao Yi for a while. Please listen and see if there are any suggestions that need to be changed." Suggestions? Principal Chin glanced at Ho Zi calmly. Although he had never been in the underworld, he had heard of Ho Zi. He was a well-known underworld boss in the southern province and even in other countries. He was also a very law-abiding underworld boss. Both the white and the underworld would give him some face. He had heard of him, but when he saw him in person, he could only say that the real person did not show his true colors. Who would have thought that the underworld boss would be so gentle? Principal Chun took the tea from him and smiled. "You're too polite. If it's about little Yi, I'll have to be thick-skinned and listen to it." He really did not know that little Yi was in contact with Ho Zi. When he received Ho Zi's help, he was shocked. "It is indeed about little Yi. Yuan has asked me many times to take care of little Yi. Therefore, I know a little about any movements on little Ye's side. It can be said that little Ye's matters are Ho Zi's matters. Whatever she wants to do, I'll support her." Ho Zi was a righteous person. When he spoke, he was calm and had the demeanor of a general. As he spoke, he explained how he knew Yi Qian. Principal Chin understood when he heard this. So that was the case. He immediately felt relieved. Seeing this, Ho Zi smiled faintly and said to Yi Qian, "Is Sun Yaozu's matter not over yet? How far has it progressed? Can you tell me?" "Sixth brother told me in secret that if you make any big moves in the southern province, I must help you. I reckon that your actions this time were indeed a little too big. In addition, this old senior's expression changed a little. I thought that your actions might not be as big as what I saw. It's very likely that there's an even bigger movement in the dark. You're Lalio's girlfriend, and I'm your brother Z. With such a relationship, Xiao Yi, you can tell me what to do next. I need to say one more thing. With my status, it will be easier for me to do things." This sentence made Principal Chun, who was quietly drinking tea, raise his eyes slightly. That's right, it was indeed easier to do things with Ho Zi's identity than with little Ye's identity. However, dragging Ho Zi into this mess was a little unkind. Yi Qian thought so too. He smiled bitterly and said, "Brother Z, you've helped me too much. If you continue to help me, you'll be in deep trouble. I'll be honest with Brother Z. Sun Yaozu and I have a grudge against each other for murdering my mother. There are too many things that are related to this grudge. I'm afraid that if I'm not careful, a disaster will befall anyone who has anything to do with me." Chief Kai clearly told her that her mother's sacrifice had deep implications. Some things were still classified and couldn't be revealed. They could only be buried by time. And she needed to dig through the mud of time to find the truth behind her mother's sacrifice and the murderer behind it. She really didn't dare to involve too many people, even though many people were already involved. Chapter 1962. Ho Zi sneered. "If you want me to get involved in the military, I can tell you right now that I definitely won't. But if I want to deal with Sun Yaozu, it won't be a problem. If Sixth brother was here, he would definitely think of me first. He wouldn't even bother with his childhood friends. Xiao Yi, just tell me your plan. If Guzi can help, he will. If he can't, he will tell you immediately." He then looked at Principal Chun, who had been silent all this time. "Senior, what do you think?" Xiao Yi didn't mind. This senior who cared about Xiao Yi from the bottom of his heart would know what to do. It was best for him to speak. Ho Zi wouldn't be wrong. Otherwise, he wouldn't have invited Principal Chun to his office. "Little Yi, tell me your plan first." Principal Chun would be very happy if someone from the underworld helped little Yi, because Sun Yaozu was also from the underworld. Yi Qian, who had been silent for a long time, finally spoke up when Principal Chun opened his mouth again. He lowered his eyes slightly and said, "I want to deal with Sun Yaozu, and I also want to get some information from him. It was related to a person's life. She planned to deal with it in secret. I won't show up to deal with Mr. Sun, but I can help you," Ho Zi said calmly. A big matter sounded like a small matter to him. It was extremely easy. Yi Qian looked at him and said, "I'll wait for Sun Yaozu to come looking for me. Even if they want to investigate, we have to let the police know that Sun Yaozu was the one who committed the murder and was killed in the end." He knew that Sixth brother's girlfriend was a ruthless character. Look at this arrangement. It was quite well planned. The matter was settled just like that. Principal Chun, who wanted to stay, was forcefully sent back to the military by Yi Qian. He was not allowed to interfere. Houzi repeatedly assured him that there wouldn't be any problems, so Principal Chun had no choice but to return to the military. Even after returning to the army, he was still worried. He was afraid that something would happen to Yi Qian. Sun Yaozu found out that Yi Qian had gone to look for old Madam Yi 3 days ago, and it was from his wife, Yi Zhixiang. Sun Yaozu glanced at his clueless wife and immediately drove to the People's Hospital. When he came out of the People's Hospital, his eyes were stitched and bandaged, and there was a fierce look on his face. That damn girl still dare to come here? It just so happens that I'm looking for her too. You want to settle accounts, right? Fine, I'll settle accounts with you. If I don't kill you this time, my surname isn't Sun. How could old Madame Yi bear to let her daughter and son-in-law take the risk first? She thought of asking Yi Zhifan to step in, but Yi Zhifan hadn't come to the hospital recently, so there was no way to make this plan come true. Since his son-in-law, Sun Yaozu, had come over, he could only be the one to solve the problem. Yi Qian did not let Sun Yaozu search for too long. She had the intention of letting him find her, so how could she delay it? She wanted to meet Sun Yaozu more than anyone else. Misty, someone is following you. Don't look back. Keep walking forward. Walking along the dimly lit street, Yi Qian knew that someone was following her before the people sent by Houzi. I know. Don't get too close to me. This was a street that led to a village in the city. The residential buildings, hidden among the tall buildings, were all low-rise buildings from the 1970s and 1980s. The electricity above their heads was dense, like a spider's web. The streets on both sides were narrow, and only bicycles and motorcycles could pass through. Yi Qian had been in and out for 2 days. Finally, the people sent by Sun Yaozu arrived. Chapter 1963. In the depths of the alley, someone hurried past, as if there was a terrifying monster behind him. The footsteps became faster and faster, and in the blink of an eye, he turned into another alley. After confirming that he had not caused any trouble, the pedestrian pressed his back tightly against the cold wall. While gasping for breath, he hurriedly knocked on the rusty iron door outside his house. The lights in the house were turned on, and a woman answered, "Coming." She opened the inner door with a creak and then opened the outer iron door. Before the door was fully opened, the frightened pedestrian squeezed in with a frightened face. Come in, come in." His voice was soft and hurried, as if he was afraid of being seen. Seeing this, the female owner was also shocked. What happened? She conveniently turned off the lights. The male owner, who worked overtime until 11 o'clock, found his chair in the dark. When he sat down, he realized that even his legs were trembling. A group of hooligans blocked a little girl. I wanted help with a stick, but when I saw that they even took out a knife, I was so scared that I almost peed my pants. I didn't dare to help and quickly came back. They were in a village in the city, the most chaotic place. 5 people lived together, and no one knew each other. Robberies were discovered at the end of the year. But it was the first time that he had encountered someone with a knife. The female owner, who was so scared that she kept gasping, was so nervous that she stuttered. "You, are you okay? This is none of your business. Our family depends on you. If anything happens to you, who will we rely on?" I don't care. I don't dare to care even if I wanted to." 5 or 6 of them all had knives. The male owner was so scared that he wiped his face and asked the female owner to pour him a glass of cold water to calm him down. After a while, he sighed. That little girl, sigh, probably seeing that he was still talking about it. The female owner scolded in a low voice. "That's enough. Don't meddle in other people's business. If you saw it, just pretend that you didn't see it. Keep your mouth shut and don't cause trouble for the family. Do you hear me?" I know, I just feel, sigh. What's the use of you thinking? Can you beat them with knives by yourself? Don't worry about it. Go take a shower. You have to catch the morning shift tomorrow. Next year, you have to pay tuition fees again. Your parents are still waiting for you to send money back for your brother to get married. Don't meddle in it. The female owner was afraid that she would cause trouble, and the voices in the house became quieter and quieter until it was silent. On the other side of the alley, the footsteps were footsteps, the footsteps, the footsteps, the footsteps, the footsteps, and the footsteps, the footsteps, the footsteps, and the footsteps, the footsteps, the footsteps, the footsteps, the footsteps, and the footsteps of the footsteps, the footsteps, the footsteps, the footsteps, the footsteps, the sound. Brother Z, they took Missy away. Someone looked in the direction of the van and spoke to Ho Z with a phone glowing with a faint blue light. Head in the direction of Changnan Middle Road. Ho Z had already returned home and was making supper for Xia Yiwei, who had yet to return from work. He was wearing a blue and white checkered apron. He turned off the stove and walked out of the kitchen. Be careful. Call me if anything happens. Brother Z, can Missy really do it alone? The assistant was a little worried and asked, Mr. Sun sent 6 people, all with knives. I'm afraid that Miss Yi will be at a disadvantage. Most importantly, if Miss Yi was at a disadvantage, how would Brother Z explain it to Sister Wei? How would he explain it to the crown prince of the family Xia? Chapter 1964. Ho Z, who was now a good family man, sat down on the sofa with an apron on. He picked up the phone and made a call. The Missy you mentioned is not simple. You can ask her for advice one day. Arrange the car. Pick her up immediately when she comes out. Clean up the scene. Don't leave any traces behind. Since he had promised, he naturally had to complete the task properly. It was never Ho Z's style to leave any traces for others to catch. The doorbell rang. Ho Z immediately got up. I'm hanging up first. Contact me if you need anything. Without waiting for his assistant to say anything, he quickly hung up the phone and walked a few steps away. Xia Yiwei, who was wearing a navy blue coat, walked over, braving the cold air. Before she could change her shoes, Ho Z carried her to the living room where the air conditioner was turned on. It's been hard on you. How many days have you been working overtime? How cruel of you to leave your husband alone in the room every day. Master Ho San, who was awe-inspiring outside and could shake the entire southern province with a stomp of his feet, was a filial husband at home. For a successful man like him, his wife at home should be afraid of him messing around. However, when it came to Ho Z, it was the opposite. He was afraid that the cruel woman in his arms would abandon him again. Xia Yiwei lazily lay in her man's thick arms and said weakly, Haven't you always been clamoring to go back to Family Eve with me? Let's go back together on New Year's Eve. I don't want to leave you alone to celebrate the new year. She spoke weakly, but Ho Z's mood was like a roller coaster that suddenly rushed to the clouds and then fell back to the ground. He asked her uncertainly, Baby, you're not talking nonsense, right? What? You don't want to go home with me for the new year? Xia Yiwei, who seemed to be weak just a moment ago, suddenly sat up in his arms. She glanced at him from the corner of her eyes. Suddenly, her aura was released, and she had the demeanor of a queen. Forget it. Pretend I didn't say anything. Then she was telling the truth. Ho Z, who was pleasantly surprised, hid his expression and said in a deep voice, You have to keep your word. How can you be so casual? Then I have to make some preparations. The old man likes to drink tea, so I have to prepare some good tea leaves. Old Madam likes small ornaments such as embroidery, so we have to find some good ones. It would be best if they were old. Uncles, aunts, brothers, and sisters-in-law, you have to give me a list of what they like. It's my first time visiting, so I have to be polite. Where are your brothers? Is there anything you like? Apart from you, I only have a younger sister from my aunt's side. I'll have to spend some effort on this younger sister. When it came to marriage, Ho Z was just like any other man. He was afraid that he would leave a bad impression on his first visit, so he tried his best to be perfect. Xia Yiwei looked at him with a serious expression, and the smile in her eyes had long been overflowing. She and the man in front of her had been going around in circles for almost 20 years. They had been on and off, but in the end, they were still together. Looking at the young man who used to be so handsome that the delinquents in Chang and went crazy and the socialites threw themselves at him, he became a mature and steady middle-aged man in front of her. Tom was kind to him. He didn't become uglier, but more handsome. He was full of charm that could make women fall in love with him, especially his peach blossom eyes, which were deep and reserved. Looking at them for a long time would make her heart beat faster. Although his appearance was handsome, what made her even more fascinated was his feelings for her. For nearly 20 years, he had never had another woman, not even a scandal. He had always kept himself clean and honest. Once he said to the young her, "You will be my one and only. My one and only will never change." Chapter 1965. For nearly 20 years, she was indeed his one and only. She was in the past, and still was now. He had always kept the promise he made when he pursued her. She was his one and only. A gentleman's promise was engraved in his heart. Xia Wei raised her slender arm and hooked it around Hozi's neck. She lowered her head and kissed his sexy lips that were still chattering away. "Master Ho-san, did you plan to come home with me a long time ago? Otherwise, how could you know so much about my family's hobbies? You even know that the old madam likes embroidery. Everyone thinks that the old madam likes reading." Hozi was the most vulnerable to Xia Wei's teasing. His sexy Adam's apple moved slightly as she nibbled on his lips. Even his breathing became heavier. "Of course I have to find out. Otherwise, who will I ask for help if there's a fire at home? Darling, you're a big family, and I'm alone. I need the Yu family support. Only with the Yu family support can I." He turned around and pressed the bewitching woman in his arms onto his body. His peach blossom eyes, which had charmed countless women and frightened countless opponents, were filled with darkness. "Only then can I lock you by my side. Don't even think about leaving my side for the rest of your life." Meeting Xia Wei was the biggest disaster in his life. For her, he was willing to go through hell. Xia Wei smiled coquettishly. Her eyes were filled with deep affection as she stared at the man who moved her heart and wanted to spend the rest of her life with him. As his kiss traveled down her lips, she gently closed her eyes and murmured softly, "Giving birth to a child can lock me in. Yes, my queen." In front of the only woman he loved, Hozi, who was all-powerful in the underworld, tried his best to please the woman under him. "You'll be my one and only. My one and only." He would use his whole life to fulfill this promise. The cold wind blew in the dark night. Somewhere, the crackling sound of firecrackers could be heard, bringing a bit of noise to the cold night. The assistant sent by Hozi followed them all the way to the villas under construction in Changnan Middle Road. Seeing the van stop in front of a villa whose exterior had been painted, he said to the person beside him, "Drive the van to the back door. Be alert. I will contact you too at any time." "All right." The two men nodded and lowered their caps a little to cover most of their faces. Their coat collars were straightened up, and they left swiftly. The door of the van opened, and two men pushed Yi Qian out of the car. They warned him in a low voice, "Behave yourself. If you dare to play any tricks, we'll break your legs." Yi Qian, who had a bag over her head, did not know where she was being taken. She shook her shoulders violently, as if trying to shake off the two pairs of hands that were pressing on her shoulders. The two men who were holding her down looked even more ferocious. The man who jumped down first and walked to the front quickly walked into the villa. Soon, Yi Qian was also brought in. There was the smell of paint and damp cement in the air. It smelled like a construction site. Yi Qian, whose hands were tied, estimated where she was the moment she was pushed in. Then, someone said, "Why are you only here now? The boss has been waiting for half an hour. He even lost his temper just now. Hurry up and bring her in. This chick is very fierce. Our brothers only became obedient after we showed them our knives. One of our brothers even got bitten twice by her. Damn it, we'll deal with her later." The man in charge of capturing Yi Qian scolded and urged the people behind him, "Hurry up and bring her in. The boss is not in a good mood." Chapter 1966. After the leader finished cursing, he ordered the other three men, "The three of you stay outside and don't let anyone come near. Keep your eyes open. If the boss is unhappy, we'll all be in trouble." A total of 6 people went to surround Yi Qian. 3 of them stayed outside, and the other 3 went in together. Yi Qian secretly moved her tied hands. As she walked through the dark corridor, her right hand suddenly twisted strangely. Her hands, which were originally tied to her wrists, were released in a minute. She secretly tugged at the rope with her freed hands. Not bad. It was indeed very sturdy. She would use it to deal with Sun Yaozu later. Yi Qian didn't move immediately. She only wanted to deal with Sun Yaozu. These people weren't in her area of concern, so there was no need to take more lives. With her head still tied up, Yi Qian felt that she had entered a very spacious room. Perhaps it was a new house. The air was damp and dusty. She was then pushed down the cement stairs. The stairs were uneven and filled with cement dust. After walking down one floor, she could clearly feel that the air was somewhat stagnant. It was as if she had entered an enclosed space. A basement? Was she being brought to a basement? When the tip of her foot touched a hard object, Yi Qian deliberately lost her balance to confirm her guess. She staggered forward and kicked the object with her foot. After a series of echoing clang sounds, Yi Qian knew that her guess was right. They were indeed in a basement. The man walking in front heard the commotion and turned his head to glare at Yi Qian, who was being dragged all the way. His two companions said unhappily, "Hold her steady. If she falls to her death, we'll be in trouble too." It was obvious that they were quite afraid of Sun Yaozu. However, Yi Qian slightly curled her lips. This kind of fear wasn't a fear of reverence, but a very simple fear of stopping a monetary transaction. It was also the most unreliable kind of fear. Then she wasn't afraid that these people would really sacrifice their lives for Sun Yaozu. They were only doing it for the money. They wouldn't really sacrifice their lives. Brother Z reminded her to be careful of the 4 bodyguards around Sun Yaozu. 2 of them were foreign bodyguards from South Asia. These bodyguards usually had their hands stained with blood. She was wary of these 2. The good thing about foreign bodyguards was that they could shift the blame to others. After the man in front finished speaking, Yi Jian vaguely heard the echoes of roars coming from the basement. She couldn't hear it clearly, but it made Yi Jian realize that this basement probably had more than one floor. There were at least 2 floors. The roar came from Sun Yaozu. He had never had much patience. After becoming a boss, he restrained himself a little. But when it came to Yi Qian, he had absolutely no patience. Not long after his men went out, he began to ask questions. When Yi Jian didn't show up after 9 o'clock, he was already very irritable. When Yi Jian didn't show up after they caught her, he flew into a rage. The only 2 chairs in the room were smashed into pieces by him. When he heard the guard say that Yi Qian had arrived, he picked up a broken table leg and spat viciously. "Drag her in. Damn girl." She had finally fallen into his hands today. Tonight was the time to end her life. No, he couldn't cripple her in one go. Back then, that be *TCH Sun Shuetching blinded herself in one eye. No matter what, he had to blind both of her daughter's eyes first. He had to slowly torture that damned girl. Sun Yaozu, whose only eye flashed viciously, let out a few sinister laughs. His already ferocious face suddenly became as ferocious as a man-eating monster. He gritted his teeth and said to the 2 bodyguards beside him, "Do whatever I tell you to do later. Do you hear me?" Chapter 1967. Yes, boss. The 2 bodyguards nodded. Their job was to do whatever their boss told them to do. It didn't take long to walk from the 1st floor to the 2nd basement floor. Sun Yaozu, who had just finished giving instructions, heard footsteps. The one-eyed man snorted coldly and stood in front of the 4 bodyguards, waiting for Yi Jian to come in. When he saw Yi Qian being dragged in by his men, he laughed heartily, then said fiercely, "Take off her hood." There were lights in the basement, and under the white light, Yi Qian, who had been in the dark for more than an hour, still hadn't gotten used to the light. Sun Yaozu stared at her and said sarcastically, "TSK, TSK, TSK, and you call yourself a military school student. Look at you. Ha. Are there any military school students as cowardly as you?" 2 foreign bodyguards stood beside him, and the other 2 bodyguards guarded one of the exits to the 1st floor and the other to the garage on the 2nd floor. Yi Jian narrowed his eyes and looked around. Finally, his eyes fell on the exit where the wind came in, which was the exit to the garage on the 2nd floor. "Sun Yaozu, you've got guts," Yi Qian said coldly. "You dare to kidnap a military school student? Looks like you're not afraid of being caught." Sun Yaozu laughed as if he had heard a joke. Catch me? Ha ha ha. Damn girl, I'm the one catching you now. Who the F asterisk CK dares to catch me? Who am I? I have money and people. You're just a poor military school student. What do you have to fight me? At this point, Sun Yaozu seemed to have realized that there shouldn't be too many people present. He yelled at the three men who brought Yi Jian in. F asterisk CK. What are you standing here for? Get out of here. The three men were used to being yelled at, so they said yes and quickly turned to leave. After the three of them left, Sun Yaozu glared at Yi Qian fiercely. You want to cause trouble for me? Who the F asterisk CK do you think you are? The old hag said you want to kill my whole family? Damn girl, I'll kill you first today. It's normal for me to want to kill your entire family. You were the one who made my mother sacrifice herself back then. In the face of his viciousness, Yi Qian, whose eyes were as cold as water, said indifferently, You made my mother sacrifice herself. I want to kill your whole family. What are you angry about? Yi Qian naturally brought the topic back to the past. Now that Sun Yaozu thought that victory was within his grasp, based on his understanding of Sun Yaozu, he could not help but say a few more words to show that he was the victor. The fact that he had chased the person who had captured her away and only kept the bodyguards by her side showed that he knew that she might say something, but he didn't want too many people to know. As long as he led the topic back to the past, he would always bring up the past. Although Sun Yaozu did not have much patience, he had not told Yi Qian about what had happened in the past all these years. It was obvious that he was a tight-lipped person. When Yi Qian mentioned what had happened in the past, his laughter grew louder. What can you do even if you find something? My eyes were blinded by your mother back then. I can only take revenge on you. He took out a small knife from his pocket and gave his bodyguards a look. He said fiercely, Hold her down. Yi Qian pretended to be afraid and retreated. He said angrily, My mother should have blinded both of your eyes back then. She trusted you so much back then, but you betrayed her. Chapter 1968. Ha ha, wretched girl. Your mother called me little brother back then. Who else could she trust if not me? Betrayal? I was doing well and earning a lot of money. How could she make me give up on making a fortune with just a few words? Sun Yaozu stood where he was and spoke fiercely, while his other two bodyguards closed in on Yi Qian. Yi Qian, who continued to retreat to the corner, heard his mother call Sun Yaozu little brother, and his eyes immediately darkened. Grandfather did not have any biological brothers. My mother doesn't have a brother. She only has Sun Dongxing as a sister. Sun Yaozu, don't get involved with my mother. If she really called Sun Yaozu little brother, then the matter could be explained further. When her mother sacrificed herself, she was holding a dagger in her hand. There were no signs of fight around, which meant that Sun Yaozu, who was stabbed by her, was actually next to her mother. Later, when her mother discovered the problem, she hurriedly raised the dagger and stabbed him. Unfortunately, she was shot and killed before she could finish off Sun Yaozu. My surname is Sun, and so is your mother. What's wrong with calling me little brother ? Sun Yaozu smiled strangely. His fierce eyes were filled with murderous intent as he stared at Yi Qian. He gritted his teeth and said, I'll remember the wound that blinded my eyes. Today I'll get it back on you. Catch her and press her to death. The two bodyguards who were surrounding them heard the order and did not slowly close in on Yi Qian. They all thought that Yi Qian would be easily caught, but Yi Qian nimbly avoided them with a roll on the spot. At the same time, he rushed at lightning speed toward the exit that she had noticed wind coming in from. Wind meant that the airflow was flowing, and airflow meant that it was unobstructed. This was the exit to the underground garage, and the bodyguard was from South Asia. He probably did not expect the girl who was dragged in by a few hooligans to be so agile. When he reacted and reached out to grab her, he only managed to grab the corner of Yi Qian's clothes. In just a few seconds, Yi Qian, who was in front of them just a moment ago, rushed out of everyone's sight. Even Sun Yaozu, who had been watching closely, did not react. When he came back to his senses, he roared angrily, F***, why aren't you chasing after him? King invited a bunch of trash. The 4 bodyguards raised their sleeves and quickly chased after him. Yi Qian had already rushed out of the second-floor basement exit and was heading towards the entrance of the villa. Now, she needed someone sent by Ho Zi to distract the bodyguards. Ho Zi's assistant wasn't an ordinary assistant. When he saw Yi Qian's figure flash past him, he immediately knew what to do. A stray cat's meow came out of its mouth, and Yi Qian quickly hid after hearing it. Soon, 4 figures came out and caught up with the vague shadow in front of them. The 3 men guarding outside the villa had already been tied up. Even the 3 men who were chased out by Sun Yaozu were tied up and thrown into the van they drove over. 6 people were tied up, and 4 bodyguards were chasing after them. Sun Yaozu was the only one left in the huge villa. When he saw Yi Jian return, he didn't even have the chance to speak when Yi Jian took a broken leg of a wooden chair and fiercely smashed it against the back of his neck. His plump body instantly turned into a pile of mush and fell to the ground with a thump. When the 2 men who came in with Yi Qian saw this, they carried Sun Yaozu away without saying a word. Chapter 1969. The people who came to help Yi Qian were Ho Zi's most trustworthy subordinates. After receiving Ho Zi's orders, they only did what Yi Qian needed them to do and did not ask questions. Sun Yaozu was wide and fat, so it was quite strenuous for the 2 men to lift him up. By the time they got into the car, his face was flushed red and he was sweating profusely. "Miss Yi, Brother Z has instructed you to go to Mount Dalong. There are still men waiting for you there." After putting him in the car, the driver jumped out and handed the car keys to Yi Qian. "Leave this to us." They still needed to get the 2 foreign bodyguards into the car and bring them to Mount Dalong. They also needed to leave behind a series of disguises so that Brother Z could take care of Miss Yi safely. Just as Principal Chun thought, Ho Zi's help would save Yi Qian a lot of trouble. With his ability, he could protect Yi Qian. This was also why Xia Jinyuan asked Ho Zi for help. Although Ho Zi, who had a large influence in Southern Province, had retired from the underworld, it did not affect his ability to do things. "Thank you for your hard work. The 2 bodyguards are South Asians. They might have retired from the government army. Be careful." At this point, Yi Qian did not stand on ceremony anymore. He took the car keys and drove away quickly under the gazes of the men. Mount Dalong was the largest natural forest park in Southern Province. Many places were listed as protected areas and prohibited from being developed. It was indeed a simple matter to get rid of 1 or 2 people in the depths of the forest. Sun Yaozu was woken up by the cold. The pain in his neck made him shiver violently. He opened his only eye in a daze and soon realized that something was wrong with his surroundings. A gust of cold wind blew past, and the pitch-black surroundings made him jump to his feet. "Damn it, what is this place?" Before he could stand firm, Sun Yaozu suddenly remembered that he was knocked out by Yi Qian. After that, he did not know anything. He was in the mountains. Sun Yaozu, who had completely sobered up, roared, "Damn girl, you actually King left me in the mountains." He had been careless and ended up being tricked by the wretched girl. Sun Yaozu clenched his teeth and leaned against the cold tree. His eyes were filled with malice as he said, "Wretched girl, just you wait." At this time, he was still unaware of the danger. Some wild animals were drilling through the frozen bushes. The sudden rustling sound startled Sun Yaozu. He then lifted his foot and kicked the tree he was leaning against. He cursed, "Damn it, here." Before he could finish his sentence, his raised left leg was pulled back, and his entire body crashed into a tree. Sun Yaozu, who was seeing stars, realized that his legs were tied up. When he tried to kick the tree, he tripped over himself. Yi Qian, who had been looking at him nonchalantly, said coldly, "You didn't really think that I would just leave you on the mountain, did you? Did they go all the way just to bring him to the mountains? Ha! They really thought too highly of themselves." Her voice was faint, but it was enough to make Sun Yaozu's heart sink. He raised his hand to cover his head and stood up again. He looked at the pitch-black surroundings and roared violently, "Damn girl, get out here. Back then, I was also thrown into the snow by your family. Didn't you say that you would let me have a taste of what it was like to be stabbed in the eyes? Then I'll let you have a taste of what it's like to be frozen to death. As for you wanting to stab my eyes, I won't give you the chance. Chapter 1970. Yiqian, who was stepping on a pile of clothes, chuckled coldly. Then, he slowly said, "It's not nice to be frozen to death. Enjoy it slowly." After being reminded by Yiqian, Sun Yaozu was shocked and angry. Only then did he realize that he was only wearing a thin shirt and pants. No wonder it was so cold. It turned out that the damned girl had taken off all his clothes. No, this was the mountain. She couldn't have gotten him up the mountain alone. Someone was helping her in the dark. Sun Yaozu was shivering all over. He hugged his arms tightly. The ferocious glint in his single eye didn't diminish. He really thought of himself as a local tyrant who couldn't be offended. As usual, he shouted, "You want to play with me? I'll play you to death, you fatherless bastard." Sun Yaozu, who hadn't realized that his life was about to end, had the confidence to say these words because he had money and power. And in his eyes, Yiqian was just a little military academy student who didn't have anyone to protect him. She wanted to kill him? Sun Yaozu didn't even think about it. Ho Zi's subordinates, who were guarding nearby, heard this and couldn't help but look up. Only this boss son didn't know that he was about to die. "Aren't I playing with you right now?" Yiqian laughed softly. His laughter was even colder than the cold wind blowing past. "Your words are exactly what I want. If I don't play you to death tonight, I won't leave." He spoke softly and softly. His words were wrapped in the cold wind and drifted into everyone's ears. Instantly, the sound of a bloody massacre was heard. Sun Yaozu didn't feel anything. Instead, he raised his head and laughed loudly. "Play me death? Ha ha ha. An orphan like you wants to play me to death? Ha ha ha. Are you King kidding me? I have money in the southern province. I have people above and below me. You, a little military academy student, dare to go against me? Damn girl, I can pinch you to death with a single finger. Let go of me first, then kowtow to me 10 times. I'll consider letting you go tonight. Ha ha ha. You want to play with me? Ha ha. What do you have to play with me? Money? People? Do you have any? Ha ha. Ha ha." He laughed maniacally. He was absolutely certain that Yiqian would not dare to do anything to him. That was what he thought. Yiqian smirked. "You don't believe me? All right, let's begin then. The more you don't believe it, the more scared you will be in the end. If you are complacent, there will be a time when you beg for mercy." She didn't open her mouth to respond, and the surroundings quieted down. The cold wind blew through the pine needles that had even frozen the leaves, bringing a bone-chilling cold that could freeze the blood in one's body. After laughing maniacally, Sun Yaozu was still waiting for Yiqian to kowtow and admit his mistake. When the surroundings were so quiet that he could only hear his own breathing, he began to look left and right. It was too quiet, so quiet that it was as if he was the only one here. It was too cold, so cold that his joints were about to stiffen. He couldn't help but panic in his heart. Even his confidence gradually began to falter. "Damn girl, get the hell out here. Get the F***CK out here." Sun Yaozu roared loudly, but in return, there was still a deathly silence. There was not a single sound. He roared a few more times, but there was still no response. Sun Yaozu, who was so cold that he couldn't stop trembling, began to realize that he was in danger. He stopped roaring and squatted down, trying to untie the rope that bound his legs. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't untie it. It was getting colder and colder, and his fingers were getting stiffer and stiffer. It was getting harder and harder to untie the rope. Chapter 1971. He was so anxious that he didn't dare to untie the rope anymore. He clenched his teeth and roared, "Get out here. F***CK. You dare play with me? Do you F***King want to die?" There was still no response. The only thing that accompanied him were the cold trees around him and the occasional rustling of some small animal in the bushes. After another 10 minutes, there was still no movement. Sun Yaozu couldn't help but jump up in an attempt to warm himself up. With a ferocious look on his face, he roared again, "Get out here. Get out here. Son of a b asterisk tch. Get out here. Insults floated over one after another. Yi Qian remained unmoved and continued to lean against the tree with his eyes closed. The show had just begun. Let him torment himself for a while, until he was completely scared. Sun Yaozu wasn't like old Madame Yi, who could curse 18 generations of people's ancestors. He also didn't think of insulting martyr Sun Xueqing. He just kept on cursing Yi Qian, saying unbearably ugly things. Son of a b asterisk tch, stop f asterisk king pretending to be a ghost. Get out here if you have the guts. His words were ugly, but it was obvious that he didn't have much confidence left. The only reason he could still shout was because he was holding on. Sun Yaozu, who had shouted until his throat was sore, had a look of panic on his face. His gaze swept around in a hurry, as if he was looking for something. At this moment, he was really starting to feel scared. Cold, too cold. Even jumping on the spot didn't bring any heat. Sun Yaozu, who was shaking all over his body, began to wonder if Yi Qian had already left and wasn't around at all. No, if he stayed any longer, he would really freeze to death. Good. UF asterisk king have guts. Just you wait. If I don't kill her when I get back, I'm not human. Sun Yaozu didn't dare to stay any longer. He hugged his arms and tried to run up the mountain. His legs were so cold that his muscles were stiff. Before he could take a step, he tripped over the bushes under his feet. How could Yi Qian give him a chance to escape down mountain? The rope that tied his legs was the same one that tied her hands. It was tied with a professional knot in the army and could only be cut with a sharp tool. After struggling for almost an hour, before Yi Qian could even make a move, Sun Yaozu, whose face was bruised and swollen from the fall, was so cold that he no longer had any strength to struggle. His teeth were chattering, and his whole body was curled up into a ball, trying to use this method to keep himself warm. He didn't want to die. He had earned so much money and achieved his current status. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to die at all. Why didn't those good-for-nothings at home realize that he was missing? Where were the bodyguards that he had spent so much money on? All of them are F asterisk king useless freeloaders. Damned old hag. If I go back and meddle in your business again, I won't be human. Sun Yaozu, who was so cold that even his head was trembling, clenched his teeth tightly. He cursed fiercely in his heart. Yi Qian, who didn't want to freeze him to death for the time being, saw that it was about time. Finally, she took a step out of the darkness. Her feet trampled over dead branches and leaves as she walked in front of Sun Yaozu. She turned on a dim blue flashlight. Her expression was cold as she looked down at him condescendingly. Sun Yaozu, the cold doesn't feel good, right? Sun Yaozu, who was so cold that he was about to lose consciousness, vaguely heard someone talking. He struggled to lift his eyes, but only saw a dim blue light. As for who was talking to him, he couldn't tell at that moment. Save me. Save me. Someone wants to kill me. Save me. He subconsciously asked for help. There was no trace of his initial arrogance. Chapter 1972. Sun Yaozu, whose lips had turned purple from the cold, did not know that the person he was asking for help was Yi Qian. With only a ball of blue light in front of him, he raised his heavy eyelids and kept murmuring, "Save me, save me." Yi Qian, who was not moved at all, asked coldly, "Why did you shoot my mother?" "Shoot? What do you mean shoot?" Sun Yaozu answered with his eyes closed. At this time, he was so cold that his joints were rusty and had no energy left. Just like that year on New Year's Eve, when he threw Yi Qian into the deep snow. Seeing this, Yi Qian broke off a tree branch and turned around to pick up the dirty coat she stepped on. He threw it directly onto Sun Yaozu, who was gradually losing consciousness from the cold. The coat was made of thick wool and could clearly protect him from the cold. Sun Yaozu, who instinctively wanted to live, tried his best to hold on to the warm coat. His fat body shrunk as if he was trying to squeeze himself into the coat. At this moment, the insufferably arrogant Sun Yaozu no longer had the awe-inspiring aura from before. He was no different from a beggar, fighting only for a meal. Yi Qian's eyes were full of mockery. It had only been a little more than an hour and 12 minutes. Back then, when she was only a few years old, she had been frozen for more than 3 hours. She listened to the laughter and chatter in the house. She listened to Yi Ying's happy voice when she received the money. She listened to Yi Zhixiang's proud voice when she talked about how much money her family had made in the coastal area. She also listened to Sun Dongqing's flattery. They stayed in a warm house, eating meat and drinking wine for the new year. She shouted, cried, and begged. Who would even look at her? He kicked her unconscious and threw her outside. Sun Yaozu, tonight is your retribution. Recalling the past, Yi Qian's calm eyes suddenly turned cold and ruthless. He lifted his leg and kicked Sun Yaozu's chest. This was the place where she was kicked that year. An eye for an eye, fair? What she could not take revenge in her previous life, she had to pay it back little by little in this life. Sun Yaozu, who finally had some warmth in his heart, was kicked to the throat and coughed violently. It also kicked him back to his senses. The kick was not light. If it were not for his fat, his ribs would have been broken. Even though his bones were not broken, he was in so much pain that he arched his body and fell to the ground. Before he could recover from the pain, he clearly heard a familiar voice asking him coldly, "Why did you shoot my mother?" Because of this cold voice, he suddenly became clearer. It's that damn girl, the one who dared to risk her life with him. Goza! Before he could say anything else, his voice suddenly, he let out a scream. In the dim blue light, Yi Jian could see that Sun Yaozu's wrist was bent at a strange angle. The number of people I've killed is definitely more than yours. Yi Jian twisted his wrist and looked at him with a murderous look in her eyes. It's more than you think. You said that I don't dare to kill you? Bye. Don't challenge my patience, and don't waste our time. We can't afford to waste time. His gaze was as sharp as the sharpest blade. Yi Qian asked again, "Back then, why did you shoot my mother?" Sun Yaozu had never seen Yi Qian like this. The Yi Qian who was so cold that his heart trembled, and the Yi Qian who was so unfamiliar to him. Chapter 1973. He chuckled softly, his eyes filled with provocation. His frozen, purple lips trembled as he said, "Let go of me, and I'll tell you." A student dared to say that he had killed many people? Ha ha ha. Did he think he was a fool? A military school student dared to kill people? Could he continue to study after killing people? Ha ha ha. Was he trying to lie to Grandpa's son? There was only one way to deal with someone who always thought he was strong, and that was to show him what it meant to be stronger. Yi Jian took out a small knife from her pocket and smiled faintly at Sun Yaozu. She grabbed two of Sun Yaozu's fingers, and a cold light flashed in her dark eyes. The moment she swung the knife, Sun Yaozu covered his little finger and ring finger that had been cut in half and screamed in pain. Ow, ow, oh! His screams traveled quite far and even scared a few birds away from their nests. "Let me give you a gift for our first meeting. Kindly accept it." Yi Qian wiped the blood-stained knife on his coat and smiled faintly. "Your knife is very sharp. It's quite handy for me." Yi Qian, who had been captured, did not carry any other weapons other than the silver wire on his wrist. This small knife was the one Sun Yaozu had wanted to use in the basement to stab Yi Qian in one of his eyes. Now that she was using it, it was quite good. "Speak properly. If you say something wrong, I'll continue to cut off your other 8 fingers. As long as you can withstand it, I'll be happy to play with you," Yi Qian said faintly. He did not take another look at the blood in his eyes. "Take a good look at the 2 fingers that I cut off. Next time, I'll probably cut off the entire palm. If not, I'll leave a section for you." Yi Qian was already used to seeing blood. His 10 fingers were connected to his heart, being cut in half at once. The immense pain directly cut off Sun Yaozu's domineering confidence. Holding his fingers, he moved along with the dim blue light and saw the 2 halves of his fingers that he had cut off. Bloody fingers, neat white broken bones. She cut them off so easily. It was actually quite difficult to make someone who was used to being tyrannical suddenly become afraid. Facing his 2 broken fingers, although Sun Yaozu was afraid, he wasn't so afraid that he would beg for mercy. He still forced himself to maintain a fierce expression and glared at Yi Qian. "How dare you? Of course I dare. Don't you believe me? Don't worry, I'll just cut off 2 more of your fingers." Yi Qian raised his eyebrows. He didn't give Sun Yaozu any chance to react. He reached out and grabbed Sun Yaozu's other hand as fast as lightning. The cold gleam of the knife slashed across Sun Yaozu's eyes. His pupils constricted, and the sound that came out of his throat was even more miserable than before. Yi Qian laughed coldly. "There are only 6 left. If you still don't believe me, then keep peeling." Sun Yaozu, who was screaming miserably, believed it. He really believed it. It was only now that he understood that the Yi Qian he was facing was not the Yi Qian he knew at all. It was also not the Yi Qian that he thought was easy to deal with. She easily cut off half of his fingers without a trace of fear. It was as if she had done this kind of thing so many times that she was completely numb. Thinking of this, Sun Yaozu, who had always been domineering, was finally so scared that his eyes were filled with terror. He fell to the ground and could no longer hold his hands tightly. He was in so much pain that sweat broke out on his forehead, and he ground his teeth. The wretched girl that he was calling out and the bastard that he was cursing would really kill her. She would really kill her. Chapter 1974. The pain in his body told him that the wretched girl he looked down on was actually a ruthless character. How many people could cut someone's finger just like that? The coldness on his body told him that it was the wretched girl he looked down on who had planned to bring him to the mountains. How could such a ruthless person be caught by his men so easily? Moreover, she was able to escape from the 4 bodyguards he had hired at a high price and come back so easily. She had planned everything long ago and was just waiting for him to fall into her trap. The cold and painful Sun Yaozu finally realized that he had fallen into her trap. Just like she said, she was actually waiting for him to come over. Sun Yaozu's heart was trembling, but he did not dare to continue crying out in pain. His teeth trembled as he said, I'll talk. Let me go. I'll tell you everything." He stated his conditions, but in return, Yi Qian sneered contemptuously. "What right do you have to negotiate with me? Money? People? You'll lose everything if you die? Unfortunately, I don't care about what you have. What right do you have to negotiate with me? Back then, why did you shoot my mother?" she asked sternly again. Sun Yaozu, who was terrified, trembled as if the doorknob in his mouth was broken. He was so shocked that he blurted out a lot at once. "Smuggling. Back then, when I was working as a smuggler, every batch of goods that came from the sea didn't need to be inspected. I don't know when your mother came over. One day, she accidentally found out that I was helping to move the goods. The smuggled goods couldn't go through the docks, so they went through the undeveloped seaside. The workers were all controlled vagrants. Your mother happened to see me moving the goods that day and recognized me at a glance. She thought that I was being controlled and was very anxious. She found me when I was moving the second batch of goods. At that time, I didn't think that there was anything wrong with her. I thought that she was sent by the people in the army to cooperate with us. Fortunately, your mother spoke first. Although your mother didn't say why she came over, the people in the army greeted us and said that there might be someone who had mixed in with our route and that we should be careful. Your mother asked me, how long have you been here? Then I understood that your mother was sent to find out about the smuggling route and not to help us. Your mother left a few days later. Before she left, she said that she was going to save me. Your mother is from Sun Jiaowan, and I'm also from Sun Jiaowan. My grandfather and your grandfather have the same grandfather, and we're relatives. In addition, my mother helped your grandfather's family before, and your mother has always remembered this favor. She wants to save me. I didn't want your mother's life. It was your mother who was stubborn and wanted to blow things up. I can't coax your mother and deliberately let her continue to misunderstand that I'm being controlled while quickly telling the news to the person convenient for us. I don't know who that person is. I only know that he is from the army. I received a message from that person saying that your mother cannot be left alive. He will plan to get rid of your mother. A month later, the army sent a special force to encircle us. Your mother was one of them. That night, the mountain was filled with gunshots. I was so scared that I didn't dare to move, but I didn't expect your mother to find me. I was so scared that my legs went weak. I thought your mother was coming to kill me, so I shouted, "She's here." Your mother reacted really quickly and immediately realized that there was something wrong with me. She was shocked and angry. She shouted my name in her native language and even pulled out a knife to stab me. Chapter 1975. My eyes were blinded by your mother, but I wasn't the one who shot her. I didn't have a gun. The one who shot her was someone wearing the same clothes as your mother. It was your mother's men who shot her. It had nothing to do with me. He spoke very quickly, afraid that he would make Yi Qian angry if he spoke too slowly. But because he spoke too quickly, Yi Qian began to doubt the veracity of his words. Yi Qian, who was getting closer to the truth, didn't want to waste any more time. "You're telling too many lies," she said darkly. She pressed the knife against his right thumb with the back of the knife and said, "The diary my mother left behind is very different from yours. Do you really want me to cut off 2 more of your fingers?" Sun Yaozu screamed, in fear again. He looked at the young man's ruthless face and shouted, I'll talk. Take the knife away. Sun Yaozu didn't suspect that he was being tricked. He really thought that Yi Qian had the diary. Otherwise, why would she come looking for him? Someone found me, told me to let your mother see it on purpose. I don't know who it was. I took a sum of money and listened to his arrangements. I'll let your mother see it on purpose. Someone wanted your mother's life. They took someone else's money and worked for someone else. Ouch. I'm telling the truth. It's all the truth. Knife, take the knife away, take it away. Yi Qian didn't doubt the veracity of his words. Chief Kai told him that his mother seemed to have realized that she might not be able to return safely. So she secretly asked her comrades to help her and handed the diary to Chief Kai, whom she trusted the most. In other words, his mother had already guessed that someone wanted to kill her. Yi Qian, whose heart felt like a huge rock, asked in a hoarse voice, "Who are they? Did you see the person who shot my mother clearly?" The person who shot her mother was wearing the same clothes. The truth was so cruel that she couldn't believe it was the truth. How? How could they shoot their own comrades? She couldn't believe it. There must be something wrong. I don't know. I really don't know. I've told you everything I know. I didn't shoot your mother. I didn't do it. Yi Qian stared at him closely, scrutinizing his eyes and facial expressions. This time, he was not lying to her. You were a fugitive. Why did you recover your identity later? Yi Qian asked his last question. As long as he got an answer, the culprit in front of him who had worked together with another person to kill his mother should be dealt with. Someone helped me and told me that they could help me resolve my identity, but the condition was that I had to keep a close eye on Yi Jifan. But I couldn't go and cause trouble for Yi Jifan. His voice was processed, so I couldn't tell who he was. I'm not lying to you. I really don't know who this person is. Sun Yaozu didn't hide anything at this point. He told her everything he needed to know in order to save his own life. I know about your father's death too. The old woman didn't like your father. All he did was ask about where he could earn the most money, but the work was dangerous. Your father was forced to leave home by the old woman. The work he found was also forced by the old woman. Yi Qian, I've told you everything I know. If I hide anything, may the heavens strike me with lightning, and I'll die a horrible death. He even swore a deadly oath. Yi Qian, who knew enough, glanced at Sun Yaozu, who still thought he could leave this place alive. He smiled faintly and said, Okay, I got it. I'll continue to investigate what you said. She would continue to investigate until she found the truth. Chapter 1976. In the face of difficulties, Yi Qian in this life would always face them head-on. Even though she could tell from Sun Yaozu's words that her mother's sacrifice involved the higher-ups of the army, she wasn't afraid. She wouldn't risk her life to find out the truth. Having been reborn, she cherished her life very much. She wanted to find out the truth, and she also needed to protect her own life. As a martyr, her mother shouldn't have sacrificed herself like this. How could she have died under the gun of her comrades? She didn't believe it at all. Mother's comrades like Chief Kai and those uncles who never showed up but were still investigating in secret. They were loyal, hot-blooded, and had an unwavering sense of justice. How could someone like them raise a gun and shoot at their own comrades? She didn't believe it at all. When Sun Yaozu heard Yi Qian say that she would investigate thoroughly, a sinister sneer flashed across his eyes. Investigate thoroughly? Ha, that's right. He admitted that he had underestimated Yi Qian. He also knew that he had been too careless. He had fallen into her trap and almost froze to death on the mountain. But she said that she would investigate thoroughly. Ha ha ha. Although she was a ruthless person, she was a ruthless person who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. That person could easily mobilize an army and cooperate with a smuggling team. She even had a way to collect illegal money. Would someone like that be afraid of being investigated? With such power, who would dare to investigate? She actually said that she would investigate thoroughly? Fine. He would wait for her to investigate thoroughly. If she did, she would end up like her mother. She would end up losing her life. Sun Yaozu, who didn't notice anything from her indifferent expression, sneered in his heart. He put on his coat, and his body of fat warmed up his limbs. His mind became active again. He smiled ingratiatingly and said, Okay. Investigate. I won't disturb your investigation. I have to go. If I don't go now, I'll be covered in blood. I'm afraid I'll bring you trouble. Huh. Was he threatening her? Yi Qian sneered. You won't bring me trouble. You won't have the chance to bring me trouble. She was involved in the murder of her mother, and she still wanted to leave alive? Naive. Looking at Yi Qian, who was smiling at him, Sun Yaozu narrowed his eyes. He swallowed hard. You, what do you mean? Are my intentions clear enough? Yi Qian raised his eyebrows. Oh, that's right. You think I don't dare to kill you. Wrong. Didn't I just say it? I've killed many more people than you can imagine, and there was a cold smile on Yi Qian's beautiful face. She slowly bent down and looked at the other party with a little coldness in her clear black eyes, as if there was a handful of snow. And it's all legal killing. Although killing you is not legal, it's still a very simple thing. The girl in front of him smiled faintly. Her youthful face gradually overlapped with the face in his memories, as if they were the same person. The only difference was that the Rong Yin in his memory was worried about him and told him that she would definitely save him. But the youthful face in front of him was filled with murderous intent. One wanted to save him, the other wanted to kill him. Sun Yaozu retreated in horror, trying to find a place where he could feel safe. No, you can't do this. Murder is against the law. Aren't you a military academy student? How dare you kill me? If you kill me, you won't have a good ending. Chapter 1977. If I don't kill you, do you think I'll let the tiger return to the mountain and wait for you to come back and kill me? Yi Qian laughed. His dark eyes were filled with endless murderous intent. Do you think I'm stupid enough to wait for you to come and kill me? I don't want to do it myself. I'll just kill you the way you tried to kill me back then. No. If you kill me, you'll be destroying yourself. Yi Qian, it wasn't easy for you to get to where you are today. Yes. Look at how hard it was for you to escape from the Yi family. Now Yi Jifan can't do anything to you. Yi Ying will forever be inferior to you. You can't kill me. If you kill me, you'll go to jail. Sun Yaozu, who was so cold that he was about to lose consciousness, now truly felt that he was going to die here. Fear and panic came crashing over him like a raging tide. He was very, very afraid of death. He never thought that death would be so close to him. Right now, he could only beg for mercy. He cried bitterly and begged for mercy. He wanted to live. He didn't want to die. A life for a life. If you kill me, you won't have a good ending either. If Yi Ying knew about this, she would be so happy that she would immediately return to the country. Yi Jifan and Sun Dongxing would be even happier. Yi Qian, let me go. I beg you, let me go. Tell me what you want me to do. I'll definitely work for you obediently from now on. Old hag Yi, you must hate her, right? She also took money back then. She also had a part to play in killing your mother. I'll get rid of her for you, okay? If you let me go, I'll be a dog in your hands from now on. If you tell me to go east, I won't go west. In order to live, Sun Yaozu threw away all of his dignity just to live. As long as he was alive, there would be a chance for revenge. However, Yiqian laughed softly when she heard this. She had always been a narrow-minded person. Seeing him kowtow to her and beg for mercy, she had to admit that it felt good to see it. "All right, I won't tease you anymore." Sun Yaozu's eyes lit up when he heard Yi Qian's words. He thought that Yi Qian was just teasing him when he said he would kill him. He was so scared that his beer belly deflated a little. Then he heard Yi Qian say coldly, "I'll let you go as soon as possible. It's boring to tease you for too long." From heaven to hell, Yi Qian only needed to say a few words. Sun Yaozu looked at her and raised her hand. Someone walked out of the darkness and asked her respectfully, "Are you going to tie him to the tree directly?" "Yes, and he's wearing too many clothes. Let's take them off." Yi Qian's casual words made Sun Yaozu completely despair. His fat legs twitched violently a few times, and a strong smell of urine drifted over with the cold wind. The man standing in front of Yi Qian glanced down and said to Yi Qian, without changing his expression, "The car is parked at the foot of the mountain. We still need to walk some distance before we can get there. We'll take care of the rest." The 2 foreign bodyguards have also been taken care of. As long as we clean up this place, we'll be done. The subordinates that Ho Zi sent to Yi Qian were all his trusted aides. They were all quite capable and always did things cleanly. Not even a fingerprint would be left behind at the scene. Before he finished listening, Sun Yaozu's eyes rolled back a few times, and he actually fainted from fear. Yi Qian didn't stay. Ho Zi said at the time that it would be better for him to take care of the rest of the matters. Just as Sun Yaozu said, it wasn't worth it to ruin her own future for him. Looking back at Sun Yaozu, who was tied to the tree like a dead pig, Yi Qian narrowed his eyes slightly. He hid his deep sharpness and left the scene with a calm and fearless aura. After taking care of Sun Yaozu, what awaited her next was an even bigger storm, and she was already prepared. Chapter 1978. After Yi Qian left for a while, the man in charge of handling the aftermath gave Ho Zi a call. At that time, it was almost 3 in the morning. Ho Zi was anxious to go to the Yu family for the new year. After coaxing Xia Yiwei to sleep, he sneaked out of bed and dealt with the important matters at hand. He had to rush back to the capital with his beloved woman to reunite with her family on New Year's Eve. While working at his desk, he heard his phone ring. He looked at the caller ID and suddenly remembered that he had a big matter to deal with outside. He was so busy that he had forgotten about it. He replied with a faint hello, and his subordinates reported the situation at Mount Dalong. After knowing that Yi Qian had listened to his orders and did not personally deal with Sun Yaozu, he also did not make things difficult for his subordinates and went down the mountain. Ho Zi's slender fingers lightly knocked on his desk. A faint smile appeared on his handsome and mature face. "Okay, I got it. Clean up the loose ends. It won't be very peaceful in the next few days. Brothers, be careful for a few days." Ho Zi still had his concerns. If it was in the past, he would not have to worry about dealing with a few people. He would have to personally instruct his subordinates to be careful for a few days. Ho Zi was used to controlling everything himself. Therefore, Yi Qian could only participate in the first half. When Yi Qian told him that he wanted to deal with Sun Yaozu, his suggestion was for him to deal with the loose ends. In his previous life, Yi Qian understood Ho Zi's way of doing things through the boss of the security company. In this life, he had interacted with him many times. He knew that this was a gang leader who was used to controlling the entire situation. In the end, no matter what he said, she nodded. He did not want trouble after the incident. She did not want to trouble him at all. However, in the end, he was still the one who troubled her. Naturally, she had to listen to his arrangements. Otherwise, she would be seen as someone who did not know what was good for her. Yi Qian's cooperation made Ho Zi feel a little surprised. This decisive girl did not refute him directly. After the incident, she would definitely do something to reassure him. This was her personality. Ho Zi also had this bad habit. However, she did not. She completely followed his instructions and cooperated. This made him a little surprised. She actually trusted him so much. She was not worried that he would not clean up the loose ends. In the end, she would lose everything. That's interesting. Hosey glanced at the phone on the desk. He stood up and stretched with a smile on his face. Tonight's work was over. Since she trusted him so much, he couldn't let her down. Yes, she also knew her limits and knew how to get along with him. Or it could be said that she was very clear about his style of doing things and understood his personality. If it was someone else who knew him so well, they would have said that he wouldn't live long. But she was the daughter-in-law that Old Six had chosen, and Iway also admired her very much. For the sake of their relationship as a family in the future, he was very willing to help this girl who had relied on her own efforts to get to where she was today. Old Six, your wife is not simple. You're really lucky. At that time, a clan with 3 generals will be recorded in the annals of history. After saying that softly, Hosey turned off the lights and left the study. She returned to the bedroom and fell asleep with her warm and fragrant jade in her arms. After returning to the hotel, Yi Qian took a shower and laid on the bed. However, he did not feel sleepy at all. He was still thinking about every word that Sun Yaozu said. He was trying to find the most useful clues from it. The initial confusion gradually turned into a clue. Yi Qian suddenly sat up from the bed. He picked up the pencil that the hotel had prepared and started to write and draw on a piece of paper. Chapter 1979. Soon, a relationship chart appeared on the paper. In the end, Yi Qian focused on the someone who helped Sun Yaozu recover his identity and asked him to keep an eye on Yi Jifan, but didn't allow him to cause trouble for Yi Jifan. In the end, Yi Qian drew a thick line around the someone. Could she assume that this person was the person she was looking for? Yi Jifan took her mother's jade pendant and rose through the ranks. This person, who hadn't helped Sun Yaozu recover his identity for so many years, suddenly made a move one day and asked Sun Yaozu to keep an eye on Yi Jifan. Could she assume that this person was afraid that he wouldn't be able to control Yi Jifan in the future, so he asked Sun Yaozu to keep an eye on him? That didn't seem right. How could he not be able to control Yi Jifan? The reason Yi Jifan was where he was today was all because of this person's guidance. Oh, right. When Sun Yaozu mentioned the army, Yi Qian drew a star in a thick circle and a promotion/promotion sign. This meant that if this person was still in the army, then he must be a high-ranking official. There was another question. If he was a high-ranking official in the army, how could he reach out to political power? What if this person's family members were high-ranking officials in the political arena? Every time Yi Qian thought a question, she would write it down. Every time she thought of a possibility, she would write it down. Yi Qian, who had a strong sense of logic, circled one question after another based on what Sun Yaozu said. She then analyzed the various possibilities. She sorted out the messy situation bit by bit and slowly organized it. In the end, Yi Qian confirmed that this person was a high-ranking official in the army, and his family members were high-ranking officials in the political arena. Only the coexistence of these two could explain her current predicament. It looked like she would have to trouble Captain Xia again. She needed to ask him which high-ranking military officers had powerful connections in the political arena. This way, she could narrow down the scope of her investigation. Yi Qian didn't know that the Military Commission for Discipline Inspection had already begun investigating martyr Sun Xueqing. She also didn't know that Chief Kai was secretly invited to the capital. On New Year's Eve, news of a real estate tycoon being kidnapped and killed by his 2 foreign bodyguards suddenly spread in southern province. For a time, the headlines of all the major newspapers were dominated by the real estate tycoon's death. According to the relevant investigation, the origins of the 2 foreign bodyguards are unknown. They did not go through the normal immigration process. The police suspect that the 2 foreigners may have criminal records. The police later investigated the 2 foreigners for repeatedly molesting women in entertainment venues and obtained relevant evidence. After Yi Qian finished reading this short paragraph, he stuffed the 2 yuan newspaper into the trash can. The police were suspicious of the 2 missing foreign bodyguards. They even took 2 blurry fingerprints from the crime scene and compared them with the fingerprints of the 2 missing foreign bodyguards. It had to be said that Yi Zhixiang had played a big role in this. Otherwise, the police wouldn't have only suspected the two foreign bodyguards. She told the police that she had heard two foreign bodyguards asking her husband, Sun Yaozu, for a higher commission, but they were rejected. Therefore, she suspected that the two foreign bodyguards must be holding a grudge. If he had a wife who lowered his IQ, such as Yi Jifan and Sun Yaozu, she would only drag him down at critical moments. When old Madame Yi found out that her son-in-law, Sun Yaozu, had died from a nurse, her heart sank. When old Madame Yi thought of her son-in-law's murderer, the first person she thought of was Yi Qian. After being paralyzed for so long, although she had food, water, and taken care of, she had still lost weight. Old Madame Yi pointed at the nurse with a trembling finger. She was so thin that her face completely revealed her mean nature. Her lips trembled as she asked sternly, You, what are you talking about? Chapter 1980. The young nurse did not have a good impression of the old lady, who was mean and would scold others at the slightest displeasure. But she was Director Ye's mother, so they didn't dare to say anything. They looked at each other and passed the newspaper to her. Look, we only found out after reading the newspaper. Real estate tycoon killed in kidnapping. The words that took up most of the page rushed into old Madame Ye's eyes. When she saw the name clearly, her body twitched violently. Her cloudy eyes flashed with obvious fear. She wasn't frightened because of Sun Yaozu's death. She was frightened because of what Yi Qian said before he left. She was the one who told her son-in-law to solve the problem in secret as soon as possible. She was the one who told him to clean it up before the new year. Because there were many crimes before the new year, as long as it was handled properly, the police wouldn't necessarily know if a life was lost. Who knew? The bastard was fine, but her son-in-law was in trouble. At this moment, old Madame Yi didn't think of the two foreign bodyguards as the culprit, but Yi Qian. Her intuition told her that Yi Qian had a lot to do with this. What a coincidence! She suspected that Yi Qian had something to do with her son-in-law's death. When she saw the newspaper and what her daughter Yi Jixiang said to the reporters, she muttered, "Idiot, idiot." She was still holding the newspaper when she suddenly foamed at the mouth and fell out of the wheelchair. Just as Yi Qian said, old Madame Yi had a second stroke. Before she could tell Yi Jixiang about her suspicions, old Madame Yi, who had a second stroke, wasn't as lucky as the first one. The doctors tried their best to save her, but they couldn't pull her back from death. Yi Jixiang, who had just lost her husband, hadn't completely accepted it. When she heard the doctor say that old Madame Yi had passed away, she went crazy and threw her bag at the doctor. Trash! You're all a bunch of trash. You're all a bunch of quacks. I give your hospital more than 100,000 yuan a year, and you can't even save my mother. You're all a bunch of liars. The doctor wanted to comfort her, but he didn't expect a weapon to fall from the sky and hit him squarely on the head. When Yi Jixiang came at him again, the doctor raised his hand to block it and quickly stepped back. He said sternly, "This is a hospital, not a place for you to be unreasonable." The old lady is easily irritable. Us doctors, nurses, and the nurses who take care of her have to remind her to pay attention to her emotions every day to prevent a second stroke. I remind him every day, but the old man turns a deaf ear every day. We've also made it very clear to the family about the consequences of a second stroke. Now, the old man has suffered a second stroke due to emotional agitation. Our hospital is already doing our best to save him. If you continue to be so unreasonable, I will directly call the police. How could Yi Jixiang listen? The two nurses were driving her were kicked several times. Yi Jifan, who had rushed over, happened to see Yi Jixiang throwing a tantrum. His expression immediately darkened. What are you doing? Don't you think things are messy enough? Sun Dongqing, who came later, took a look and gloated. She's never worried about messy things. The messier, the better. Shut up. Yi Jifan, who had been in a bad mood all day, glared at his wife and hurried over. Doctor, something big happened to my sister's family, and now something happened to my mother. She's in a bad mood. Please forgive her. He didn't know that old Madame Yi hadn't been saved yet. For Yi Jifan's sake, The doctor nodded with a cold face and didn't say anything else. He covered his bleeding forehead and left. Chapter 1981. Yi Jifan's arrival was a relief to the hospital. Although he was a provincial official, he was not arrogant and had a good temper. He never made things difficult for others. Every time he came back, he would advise the old lady not to make things difficult for the hospital and to be more considerate. The staff in a nursing home were all looking forward to his arrival. After the doctor left, the nurse comforted him with a "my condolences" and quickly left. They could understand the family member's emotions after the death of a loved one, but it was wrong to hit someone. The doctor tried his best to save her, but not only did he not get a word of thanks, he was also beaten up. Anyone would be angry. After the staff left, Yi Jifan's face darkened and he reprimanded. "Do you think this matter is not serious enough? Who do you think you are? You even hit the doctor. Do you really want to sit in the police station for a few days before you're happy? Things have never gone well for you. You've only made things worse. When the reporters interviewed you, look at what you said. You said it was definitely the work of the 2 foreign bodyguards. Are you sure? Even the police can't be sure. The old lady passed away. The doctor's hair was wet with sweat after saving her. You didn't even say thank you when you came up. You even hit someone. Yi Jixiang, you're really something. You really think you're not afraid of anything just because you're rich? Listen to me carefully. Sun Yaozu and the old lady who made money for you are gone. If you continue to be so arrogant, you'll destroy the 2 children." Yi Jifan was indeed afraid that Yi Jixiang would drag him down. Things were different now. If anything happened to a government official, the media would swarm over like flies. They were just waiting for you to commit a crime so they could expose you. Although he had people protecting him, he was still cautious. If he were to become the subject of gossip because of his relationship with Yi Jixiang, he would definitely teach her a lesson. At this time, Yi Jifan was not concerned about the old lady's death. He was worried that Yi Jixiang would implicate him in the future. Yi Jixiang didn't inherit old Madame Ye's intelligence, but she inherited her temper. How could she be intimidated? Hearing this, she straightened her neck and roared, "Yi Jifan, don't put on airs in front of me." The moment she shouted, Yi Jifan's expression changed. If there weren't people walking around, he would have slapped her. Yi Jixiang seemed to have found a place to vent. Without looking at his expression, she pointed her finger and shouted, "My mother is gone. I know you two are happy. Especially you, Sun Dongqing." She had just pointed her gun at Sun Dongqing, but Sun Dongqing, who was never one to be trifled with, did not even let her finish. She glared at her angrily and retorted, "What did I do? What did I do? That's because your mother is gone." "Shut up, all of you." When Yi Jifan saw that the 2 of them were arguing unreasonably, he couldn't restrain his anger and shouted, "Don't you think it's embarrassing enough? Hey!" Sun Dongqing would not let herself be taken advantage of. With the old lady's death, she suddenly felt that she was in charge. Yi Jixiang happened to be in charge. How could she let it go so easily? She looked coldly at the crazy Yi Jixiang and said, "I'm happy. What did you do to me? You and your mother bullied me years ago. I've been looking forward to this day. Ha ha, it's finally here. Why can't I be happy?" Yi Jixiang was infuriated by his Sun Dongqing's words. She roared and swung her bag at Sun Dongqing's head. "B*TCH, B*TCH. I'll kill you, B*TCH. Chapter 1982. A fight between 2 women was much fiercer than a fight between a woman and a man. No matter how fast Yi Jifan's reaction was, he couldn't stop both of them at the same time. More and more onlookers gathered, and more people were pointing at them. The doctors and nurses who heard the commotion had no choice but to join in. In the end, the security guards came out and evacuated the onlookers. Then, they dragged the 2 shrews back to the doctor's office. Only then did the quarrel stop. The doctor couldn't stay. For Yi Jifan's sake, he said a few words like, "We all understand," to save some face for him. He left the office to the 3 of them and left with the excuse that he needed to check on the ward. Yi Jifan, who had lost all his face, was so angry that his face was ashen. He swept his gaze over the two of them with raging anger. He didn't have the habit of hitting women, otherwise he would have hit them with a chair. You two are really something. One is the wife of a real estate tycoon, and the other is the wife of a provincial official. Do you think that not many people in Nan province know you? Do you want to make a name for yourselves today? Only then will you feel happy when people point at you on streets. Every word was said through gritted teeth. Every word was cold and ruthless. Now you got what you wanted. I dare say that only the two of you showed up today. No one doesn't know you two shrews. At this point, Yi Jifan's anger flared up. He slapped the doctor's desk. Bam! Sun Dongxing and Yi Jixiang's hearts skipped a beat. They saw Yi Jifan pointing at his face and roaring with a ferocious expression. My face has become the laughing stock of the entire Nan province. His ancestors' faces have been disgraced by you two idiots. Yi Jixiang, who was a little scared, sat down. She covered her face and cried loudly. Second brother, what should I do? What should the company do? Leila and Chengcheng are so young. What should we do in the future? Oh, now you're calling me second brother? Weren't you very impressive when the dead old woman was still alive? Sun Dongxing wasn't afraid of drama. Looking at Yi Jixiang's current appearance, she was very happy. What should we do? How would we know? It's just a salad. Yi Jifan saw that she only knew how to target others and was not worried about her own situation at all. He scolded angrily. Do you think it's easy to deal with? At that time, those people who flatter you will be gloating behind your back. I'm sure you'll feel very comfortable in your heart. How dare they? Sun Dongxing shouted coldly. Whoever dares to gossip about my family, I'll teach her whole family a lesson. Yi Jifan, who had completely lost faith in his wife, was too lazy to persuade her any further. She was a stubborn woman. No matter how good or bad you were, she would only think that she was right. Get lost. Yi Jifan took a few deep breaths. Unable to suppress the anger in his heart, he pointed at the door and shouted, Did you hear that? Scram. He still needed to ask about Sun Yaozu. Keeping Sun Dongxing here would only add to his troubles. Sun Dongxing didn't want to stay. She rolled her eyes and said sarcastically, Who wants to stay? What bad luck. She walked to the door and turned around. She glanced at Yi Jixiang with disdain. What bad luck. Give me a call before you go home. I'll use mugwort to smoke you. Yi Jixiang, who was covering her face and crying, immediately raised her head. She glared at the person who dared to go against her. She gritted her teeth and said, Sun Dongxing, don't be so smug. How dare you curse my mother? You will also suffer retribution. Chapter 1983. Sun Dongxing snorted in disdain and said, I think it's your family that's going to get retribution. Then she walked away smugly. Yi Jixiang was so angry that she almost fainted. Brother, look at her. Look at her. She didn't even shed a tear when Mom passed away, and she's still making sarcastic remarks. Now, the only person Yi Jixiang could think of was Yi Jifan. However, Yi Jifan wasn't sad. Sun Dongxing had suffered a lot in the hands of old Madame Yi when she first married him, so it was only right for her to vent her anger. Thinking about business, Yi Jifan calmed down a lot and said, Birth, old age, illness, and death are natural laws. Do you think being sad can bring someone back to life? Old Madame Yi's sudden death was normal for Yi Jifan. She had been paralyzed for so long and had such a bad temper. The doctor had reminded him many times to persuade her. If she continued to be irritable, she would definitely have a second stroke and her life would be in danger. He heard it, but didn't remember it. In the Yi family, other than Yi Qian, who hated her the most, Yi Jixin also hated her. When he received a call from Yi Jixiang saying that old Madame Yi had another stroke, he used the excuse that he was far away and that it would take him a few hours to get back. He didn't want to see this vicious old woman off, nor did he want to hear her last words. Yi Jixiang couldn't accept Yi Jifan's indifference. She looked at him in disbelief. Brother Yu, how could you be like this? Mom treated you so much better than Big Brother. Treated him so much better than Yi Xinfan? Yi Jifan sneered. I know how to avoid your mother's anger. I'm just a little smarter than Yi Xinfan. Otherwise, I would be your mother's punching bag. Yi Jifan didn't want to talk about history anymore. His expression was cold as he said in a businesslike tone, I don't have much time to arrange your mother's funeral. I plan to let the company handle it. Today is New Year's Eve. You still have to go back to the Sun family for the new year. Your mother's funeral will be handled after the new year. I'll take care of it myself. You don't have to worry about it. Although the tea had cooled down after the person left, he had pretended for so long that he did not mind pretending to be a filial son for a few more days. Hearing this, Yi Zhixiang felt a little better. Then, she heard him ask, Now, tell me about Sun Yaozu. Tell me everything you know, so I can talk to the police and have them investigate more carefully. Tell me, how did he recover his identity? I need to start investigating from here and see if anyone is using Sun Yaozu to do something illegal. He said it in a dignified manner, but in fact, he just wanted to confirm the suspicions in his heart. After hesitating for a while, Yi Zhixiang decided to tell her everything she knew. He came home drunk that day and told me that if you ever dared to do anything wrong, he would make you pay for it. I was a little curious and asked a few more questions. Only then did I know that there was a noble person helping me. The condition was to let Yaozu keep an eye on you. But then I saw that damn girl, Yi Qian, appear on top of the city gate tower with the country's leaders. Then, your good daughter hit me and sent me to the hospital. I forgot about it. Yi Jifan's face darkened. He only guessed that the person might have helped Sun Yaozu, but he did not expect that person to want him to keep an eye on him. When he left the hospital, Yi Jifan's heart was still in turmoil. He did not have half a second of peace. On New Year's Eve, Yi Jifan's family was destined to not have a peaceful time. Yi Qian, who had returned to the sniper base, made dumplings with the soldiers and happily celebrated the new year. Chapter 1984. Yi Jian, who had been reborn in the second year of junior high, counted silently in her heart as she made dumplings. She realized that she didn't seem to have spent Chinese New Year in the army. She was either on the way to training or on the way to training. Looking at the less than 100 recruits and veterans of the sniper base gathered in the canteen to make dumplings in full swing, Japan's somewhat impetuous heart gradually calmed down. The familiar color and the familiar temperament were what she liked only in this life. Take it easy, although there's still space in your stomachs. If each of you makes 100 dumplings, you'll have to make more than 1,000 dumplings tonight. If you can't finish them, you'll have to go back to the dormitory. A middle-aged man in the middle joked. His fingers moved nimbly, and in just a few words, he made a perfectly shaped dumpling. It was obvious that it was made by a master chef. The middle-aged man's surname was Deng. He was a captain and a company commander. He was the commander of the sniper base. He was also a soldier with outstanding military achievements. He was 34 years old this year. The soldiers all laughed. Someone replied, I'm not afraid of being full. I'll run 3 kilometers after eating a few. 100 dumplings won't be a problem. That's a good idea. Comrades, what do you think? There was a collective objection. The laughter was joyous and harmonious. Yi Qian didn't have much contact with Commander Deng. Firstly, she had only been here for a short time. Secondly, when she was here, Commander Deng went out on a business trip and didn't come back until yesterday. Today, it was Principal Chun who introduced her to the sniper base that she spoke a few words with Commander Deng. Commander Deng, who came from the Northeast, was a famous Chinese New Year holdout in the sniper base. He had been in the army for 8 Chinese New Years and hadn't come home. Including this year, it had been 9 years. He had planned to go home to visit his wife and children this year. An instructor who was supposed to be on duty during the Chinese New Year had a seriously ill father. Commander Deng took over his duty without hesitation and asked the instructor to go home early in the morning to visit his family. Principal Chin looked at Company Commander Deng, who was talking and laughing with the soldiers, and said to Yi Qian, he bought the tickets a long time ago. The night before the business trip, he told me that he could finally go home this year to see his family and his daughter, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. He also told me about his old father at home. When his mother found out that he was going home, she was so happy that she cried. When he came back yesterday, he found out that an instructor's father was seriously ill. Without hesitation, he gave his train ticket to his comrade. He's also a true man. Little Yi, the thing we don't lack the most in our army is true character. Yi Qian thought they were just talking about Commander Deng, but when she heard the last sentence, she immediately understood that Principal Chun had put in a lot of effort into this matter. He was using this as an excuse to lecture her because he was afraid that she would act rashly again. Chief Kai, did he say something to you? Yi Qian put down the weirdly wrapped dumpling in her hand. She lowered her eyes and picked up another dumpling skin. She didn't look up at Principal Chun. Her long, thin eyelashes trembled slightly. Can you tell me more? Principal Chun felt that Yi Qian was good at everything, except for one thing. She was too thoughtful. He sighed softly and tried to persuade her. Little Yi, I'm starting to suspect that your father and I have taught you to be so strong. Have we gone overboard? So much so that you want to solve everything by yourself, and you like to do it in secret. Even Uncle Chun doesn't know what you've been doing in secret. If it wasn't for Chief Kai's call, he wouldn't have known that she had left the base to seek revenge. 7 days. For 7 whole days, he still hadn't noticed anything wrong with this little Yi girl. Yi Qian pursed her lips and revealed a stubborn look. She gently pinched the dumpling skin with her eyes lowered. She said softly, "You need a rest. I didn't want you to worry, so I didn't tell you." Chapter 1985. This time, I got some information from Sun Yaozu and found some clues myself. In the future, I won't be as impulsive as I was a few days ago. Because the enemy was powerful, if she continued to be impulsive, she would end up harming herself. It had not been easy for her to get to where she was today. How could she harm herself because of impulsiveness? After putting away the weirdly wrapped dumplings, Yi Qian, who knew she was wrong, finally raised her eyes and dared to look into Principal Chen's eyes. Uncle Chun, what else did Chief Kai say to you? Can you tell me about it? The cafeteria was very lively. Company Commander Deng even asked the soldiers to move the large color TV, which was usually used for news broadcasts, into the cafeteria and put it on 2 stacked steel tables. Festive songs were played on the TV, adding to the Chinese New Year atmosphere in the cafeteria. Principal Chen looked around and picked up a towel to wipe the flour off his hands. He said to Yi Qian, "Girl, let's go for a walk." It was snowing outside again. They walked out of the cafeteria and walked along the cement path towards the field. The light in front of them was very bright, but behind them was darkness. It was just like Yi Qian's life, who had walked through the darkness and was moving towards the light. The thin white snow left a trail of footprints that extended all the way to the field. Principal Chun pointed at the obstacle course that was usually used for physical training. I haven't seen you do a 400-meter obstacle course in a long time. Let's go. Run a lap with Uncle Chun. No, your body has just recovered. You can't do such intense training. Yi Qian refused without thinking. She then said, "Give me the time, and I'll finish it." The throne of the world sniper is not that easy to sit on. Girl, don't underestimate Uncle Chun. Her refusal was useless. Principal Chun unbuckled the belt around his waist and put it aside seriously. He then challenged Yi Qian, "Come on, girl, show me what you're capable of. Show Uncle Chun what you're capable of." For the 400-meter obstacle course, one had to first run 100 meters in the air, then turn around and cross the 5-step pile. Yi Qian saw Principal Chen shoot out like an arrow as soon as he finished speaking. She still wanted to say a few more words to persuade him, but her reflexes were faster than her brain. She was a few seconds behind him and rushed a few meters away. Principal Chun was 3 steps ahead of him. "Little Yi, your strength shouldn't be limited to this, right?" As they brushed past each other, Yi Qian heard Principal Chen teasing him with a faint smile. He couldn't help but tease back, "I have to save you some face." "Ha, what a boastful tone. Let's see who gives him face." Principal Chun, who had lost a lot of weight due to his serious illness, didn't become dispirited because of it. He had been a soldier for more than 10 years and had the will to risk his life. He leaped over the deep pit and soared into the air like a tiger released from its cage. In the blink of an eye, he jumped over the low wall. The military field was the best place to ignite a soldier's fighting spirit. Yi Qian's eyes turned cold when she saw this. She didn't want to be seen as weak. She rushed up the high platform and jumped down with open arms like an eagle. Not bad. You're a bit off. Principal Chun jumped up the high wall and smiled at Yi Qian, who was already beside him. You're not even halfway there. Keep it up, girl. Climbing up and down the high wall, Yi Qian crawled over the net of low posts. She was much faster than Headmaster Chen here. She supported herself with one elbow and slightly bent one knee to make her body as close to the snowy ground as possible. With a sound of swish, 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 she nimbly crossed the net. Once her feet were out of the net, she quickly climbed up and returned to the low net. This time, she had to jump over the low net. Chapter 1986. Principal Chun looked at the silhouette in the light. His kind and gentle gaze was fixed on her. Her slender and small figure was like an eagle that could spread its wings and fly. She no longer needed much protection and could fly freely in the sky and the four seas. As for him, he was really getting old. Yi Qian quickly climbed over the 2-meter-high wall and leaped into the air. Like a snake, she ran across the single-plank bridge at lightning speed. As if she felt something, she looked back and saw a figure standing proudly in the light, quietly looking at her. In the light, she saw Principal Chun smiling. Start running, girl. Principal Chun, who was standing in place, waved his hand. His eyes were full of encouragement. Start running, girl. Your excitement has already begun. The scenery in front of you is the most beautiful scenery. You must enjoy it well. Don't let down the most beautiful scenery and your most beautiful self. Yi Qian waved her hand. She ran up the high board and down the platform. She crawled through the short hole. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared from the flat ground. A few seconds later, she climbed out of the ground. She went down the deep hole and then went back up again. It depended on her overall fitness. Once the 5-step pile was done, he turned back and completed the last 100 meters of the empty run. Yi Qian ran back. Although her breathing was messy, her eyebrows were high. She was full of fighting spirit. Wearing a combat uniform, she was a qualified soldier. It's better to run 10,000 meters than to run 100 meters. Soldiers in the army would feel like dying at the end of the 5-kilometer and 8-kilometer runs. However, a 400-meter obstacle run would make soldiers wish they were dead. Although Yi Qian didn't feel like dying, her breathing was messy. She had to run, jump, grab, climb, and roll. She had to use all kinds of martial arts to pass the 400-meter obstacle run. Not bad. 1 minute and 54 seconds. Principal Chun nodded with satisfaction. Although it's not a record, it's still possible to break it under 1 minute and 40 seconds if you train harder. Yi Qian smiled. I heard that at the main entrance of a 400-meter obstacle course in the Linan military region, there is a stone with the words Elite Soldier written on it. On the back of the stone, there's a general who personally carved the name of a soldier who completed the obstacle in 1 minute and 22 seconds. Uncle Chun, my current record is 1 minute and 54 seconds. I'm far from that record. Every army had an outstanding soldier who was admired and surpassed. Even if he was just a private, the entire army should learn from him. When she mentioned these soldiers who were admired by the other soldiers, her dark eyes were as bright as the stars. They were filled with fighting spirit. When Principal Chun saw this, he felt as if a stone had been lifted from his heart. She was indeed a girl who wouldn't disappoint. Although she had thoughts of revenge, her goal was still the same and had never changed. Uncle Chun believes that in the future, you will also become an outstanding soldier who will be admired and surpassed, just like your mother. Even though she sacrificed for so many years, she still lives so vividly in the hearts of Chief Kai and the others. Principal Chun was gratified. He slowly changed the topic to martyr son Xiueqing. Chief Kai did mention to me that they suspected that your mother was shot in the back by one of their own. However, they later thought that it was impossible. How could comrades who had gone through fire and water with each other point their guns at their own comrades? But since it was someone who was wearing the same color uniform, it was indeed possible that it was someone from the army, just not their comrades. Also, your mother herself had a premonition. She guessed that she might be sacrificed, which means that she actually guessed who wanted her to be sacrificed. However, this person's identity made her somewhat apprehensive, so she had to avoid it. Chapter 1987. Principal Chun didn't know any more than Yi Qian did. After listening quietly, Yi Qian's hands swept across the parallel bars. His fingers lightly grasped the snow that had fallen into his palms as he gazed into the distance. In front of the sniper base were towering mountains and precipitous ridges. As far as the eye could see, there were only rolling mountains. On the other side of the mountain, there might be another mountain, or might be a flat road. Just like her journey today, there might be mountains blocking her way, or there might be a flat road. She didn't know what the future would hold. Now, she only knew to take every step steadily and not leave behind any regrets. Just like when she took action to get rid of Sun Yaozu, she didn't regret it at all, nor did she leave behind any regrets. Grasping the present was the foundation of a person standing. Uncle Chun. This person is very likely still in the army. He might even have become a powerful general. His family members are also involved in politics, so their power isn't low either. Yi Qian said in a low voice, his gaze resolute as he gazed into the distance. His tone was very calm, without the slightest ripple. Hearing this, Principal Chen's expression changed drastically. His tone was very strict as he said, Chief Kai has been investigating for so long and has no leads. He only has a vague feeling that the person who harmed your mother is still in the army. Little Yi, how did you know? Are you hiding something from Uncle Chun? His strict tone was filled with deep worry. Yi Qian tilted his head and smiled slightly at this concerned relative. My stubbornness has caused you to worry during this period of time. He was afraid that she would do something extreme that would destroy him. Hearing that something was wrong, he immediately became vigilant. Even his usually gentle gaze became exceptionally sharp. Only a relative who was truly worried about him would have such a big reaction. Yi Qian didn't have any intention of hiding it from Principal Chun. Since he already knew, rather than let Uncle Chun worry, he might as well tell him the truth. He told him all his guesses that night. The reason why I said that this person has military power and his family is involved in politics wasn't without reason. He helped Sun Yaozu go from being a fugitive to a normal citizen. He also helped Yi Zhifan rise to the top. Uncle Chun, from these two things, we can see that his identity is not simple. Since his identity isn't simple, logically speaking, small fries like us shouldn't be able to hinder him. However, everything he has done is inconceivable. They all deliberately revealed to Chief Kai that I had fallen into the water and died prematurely, but at the same time, spare my life. Uncle Chun, what do you think he wants? My mother let him go through so many twists and turns to take her life. I can still think that my mother might have discovered something about him and brought a certain threat to him. What about me? What threat could I possibly pose to him? Yi Zhifan, Sun Dongqing, and old Madam Yi treated me like that. I wonder if he was the one who instigated me to live in the past. He secretly spared my life, and also instructed Yi Zhifan's family to raise me until I'm useless. Uncle Chun, am I worth him setting up such a big trap? I don't think so. I don't think I'm worth him spending so much effort to deal with me. But then I thought, since he plotted against my family, can't we say that as long as my family lives, we'll be a threat to him? Speaking of threats, my father passed away early, my mother sacrificed herself, and the adults are no longer alive. What else can threaten him? Me? More than 10 years ago, I was only a 2- or 3-year-old child. What could I possibly threaten him? If he really felt that I was a threat to him, he could have asked Yi Zhifan's family to find a way to deal with me when I was young. Chapter 1988. Falling into the water, falling. All sorts of accidents could easily take care of a 2- or 3-year-old child. But why didn't he do anything? Why did he only let Yi Zhifan's family beat me, scold me, and torture me? Did he feel a sense of accomplishment for raising me into a good-for-nothing? In her previous life, she had become a good-for-nothing, and in the end, she had been chased around by Yi Ing like a stray dog until she died. Did that fulfill that person's wish? I can't figure it out, Uncle Chun. I've thought about it for a long time, but I still can't figure it out. After listening to her analysis, Principal Chun couldn't calm down for a long time. He simply grabbed a handful of snow and rubbed it on his face. The cold feeling could at least calm his restless brain down a little. He asked her in a deep voice, "Girl, why are you thinking so deeply? After listening to your analysis, I faintly feel that there are more unspeakable secrets behind your mother's sacrifice. That night, before I took care of Sun Yaozu, I intentionally got information from him. Sun Yaozu was afraid of death and wanted me to spare his life, so he used what he knew as a condition and told me some things about the past." She summarized Sun Yaozu's words for Principal Chun. Her voice was cold and indifferent. Principal Chin's face darkened bit by bit. After about 5 minutes, Principal Chin's expression was so cold that it was heavy. "Girl, if it's possible, I suggest you mention this to Captain Xia. The army that your mother was in when she was alive erased all of your mother's deeds. It's very obvious that this person is in the army. Now, even Sun Yaozu's identity was taken care of by someone and asked him to monitor Yi Jifan. From this, it can be seen that this person has been keeping an eye on you. If Yi Jifan is also one of his people, he must have been suspicious of Yi Jifan when he asked Sun Yaozu to monitor him. Perhaps you can say that because you're successful now, he suspects that Yi Jifan has the intention to cultivate you, so he no longer trusts Yi Jifan and sent Sun Yaozu to monitor you." Principal Chun was also a logical and rigorous person. Coupled with his life experience, he would often cut straight to the heart of the matter and find the key to the problem. For Yi Qian, he suddenly understood why Sun Yaozu was sent to monitor Yi Jifan. Then, he seemed to have thought of something. His dark eyes flashed like shooting stars, and even his tone became lighter. I know, Uncle Chun. Know what?" Seeing how excited Yi Qian was all of a sudden, Principal Chun couldn't help but laugh. "You're so happy all of a sudden. What did you find out this time?" Yi Qian was very excited, as if he had found a thrill. "As long as we know why you only want to waste me, but don't dare to kill me, then we have nothing to be afraid of. What was there to be happy about? It would only make his mood more solemn." Principal Chun, who was thinking in his heart, didn't interrupt his sudden happiness. He looked kindly at the girl who had quickly restrained herself after being willful. "It would be good if you knew why he has so many misgivings about you. He must have misgivings about me, so he can't do anything to me now. Or rather, the time isn't ripe yet. He has to keep me alive first. Only when the time is right will he make a move." Principal Chin nodded in agreement. The little girl was quite optimistic, but she was right. It must be because he had misgivings about Yi Jifan that he didn't dare to make a move. Chapter 1989. However, if he could plot to make Sun Xueqing sacrifice herself, then he could also plot to make Yato sacrifice herself. Principal Chin's heart sank, and he pursed his lips. No, he had to tell Captain Xia about this. He didn't know if his special forces had undergone strict screening. Yato, Uncle Chin will give you a suggestion. You can confess to Captain Xia about this. Revenge is important, but we need to act according to our abilities. Since the other party has a high position and power, you and I are not strong enough to fight him head-on. We must have external help. I know about Sun Yaozu's matter. Ho Zi, with your skills, you can deal with him secretly without leaving any traces. However, with Ho Zi's help, even if there are any problems, they won't be able to trace it back to you. Yi Qian had already pursed her lips. She didn't want to tell Captain Xia everything about her. She only wanted to ask Captain Xia about which generals in the army had powerful political power. Seeing her expression, how could Headmaster Chen not understand? There was a trace of regret in his heart. He regretted teaching her the principle of not asking for help in everything. He also regretted raising her to be too independent. Yato, two people get along differently. Your matter to Captain Xia is his matter. He really takes your matter to heart and asked Ho Zi to help you as much as possible. He has already done so much. Do you still want to hide it from him and solve it yourself? Yi Qian opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but Principal Chun didn't give her a chance. He continued, "If you really do that, I can tell you with certainty that Captain Xia will be very angry, because he treats you as one of his own, but you treat him as an outsider who can't be trusted." "Yi Yado, do you think that Captain Xia is an outsider?" Yi Qian didn't hesitate and answered firmly, No, I don't think so. It's just that I don't want to trouble him too much. He has enough things to do, and I don't want him to worry about me." As the commander of a special forces team, he had too many things to deal with. She couldn't bear to let him bear another burden. Her problem wasn't something that could be solved in a day or two, and it involved a lot of people. If she implicated him, she wouldn't be able to rest easy for the rest of her life. "Child, aren't you usually very clever? Why are you so muddle-headed and worrying?" Principal Chin's chest tightened a little. Seeing that she still hadn't reacted, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If he thought it was troublesome, why would he ask Ho Zi to take care of you? He's definitely not afraid of trouble, and he doesn't think that you're trouble. In Captain Xia's heart, your problem was his problem. It was something that he had to solve personally. He placed you in his heart and only wished to share your burdens and relieve your worries. He only wished that you would be happy in the future. Since Uncle Chun has said so, you should understand. She knew that the two of them needed to be honest with each other and not deceive each other. Yi Qian understood. However, she treated the matter of avenging her mother as her own problem, so she didn't see the big picture and walked into a dead end. With Uncle Chin's advice, the quick-witted Yi Qian instantly understood. She bit her lower lip and softly said, "Okay, I understand, Uncle Chun. I'll tell him when he comes back." Chapter 1990. That's right. You can talk to Captain Xiao about all your matters, especially big ones. He can even make the decision for you. Principal Chun paused after he finished speaking. He deliberated for a while before he continued. Of course, you can't rely on him to make decisions for you. You have to have your own judgment and personality. After all, you don't have to rely on him completely. After all was said and done, Principal Chin still didn't want Yi Qian to always rely on others and lose his own personality. Yi Qian was already smiling. "Uncle Chun, you're really making things difficult for me. You're too contradictory. You want me to tell Captain Xia everything, and you also say that I have to make my own judgment. Then what should I do? Then you have to rely on yourself to figure it out." Uncle Chin only knows this much. Principal Chin also knew that his words were a little contradictory, but sometimes there was no logic to the interactions between men and women. It all depended on personal exploration. Then they talked about Chief Kai. After receiving the inspection report, she didn't contact Chief Kai again. Principal Chan said, when she contacted me, she had just returned to Tongzhou. She should be celebrating the new year at home now. Tomorrow is the first day of the new year. I'll call Chief Kai early to wish him a happy new year. A soldier came over. Before he even got close, he said happily, "Chief Instructor, the dumplings are cooked. Sergeant Deng invites you over to eat the dumplings and say a few words to us at the same time." Military leaders usually didn't just say a few words, but Yi Qian knew that Principal Chun really only said a few words. Hearing that, he laughed. "Don't really say a few words. You should at least say 10. What's the point of saying so much nonsense? I'll try my best to say 10 sentences." Principal Chun didn't think much of it. He walked over to the soldier who came over and asked about the situation in the cafeteria. Hearing the soldier laugh, the three of them returned to the cafeteria. It was very lively at the sniper base. Every face was overflowing with a happy smile. Around 9 o'clock, the 4 landlines set up in the base began to be busy. The soldiers who had finished eating the dumplings lined up to call home. There were too few landlines. Principal Chun even took out his own cell phone and gave it to the soldiers. Yi Qian dialed Chief Kai's number to wish him a happy new year in advance. He called 3 times in a row, but no one picked up. Yi Qian frowned slightly. Just as he was about to call a 4th time, Chief Kai called. Chief Kai, who took the phone, listened to the beeping sound from the receiver. He looked indifferently at the soldier who brought his phone over. "Then I'll just tell you where I am now." "Yes, if the leader says so, she can know." The guard from the military commission nodded with a serious expression. Try to get her to come over tomorrow. Tomorrow was the first day of the Chinese New Year. Within 10 seconds of picking up the phone, Yi Qian's face darkened. He immediately said, "Okay, I'll immediately rush to the earliest flight." Chief Kai, don't make things difficult for yourself. The military commission is famous for being strict. Just be realistic and don't take the blame for me. You're treating the military commission as a tiger's den. Ha, not only am I fine, but I think it's a good thing. You don't have to worry too much. It won't be too late to come over when you wake up naturally. Chief Kai laughed heartily at Yi Qian's words. This kid was really loyal. The earliest flight was 10 past 5 in the morning. Principal Chun personally drove Yi Qian to the airport. Don't panic when you arrive at the military commission. They won't be able to trace the Sun Yaozu incident back to you. After you arrive, you have to think carefully about what they ask, but you can't let them know. You have to react quickly. You can't leave any clues for them to find out. Do you understand? Chapter 1991. The Military Commission for Discipline Inspection was not an ordinary organization. Even if the highest-ranking officer made a mistake, the Military Commission for Discipline Inspection could still handle it. Yi Qian had been very worried before, but when he heard Chief Kai's voice over the phone, he didn't seem tired at all. He could even laugh loudly and talk to him. Sometimes he would say something unrelated. That was what he said to the people around him. It was also an indirect way of telling him that he was fine, just that his personal freedom was restricted. Uncle Chun, as long as my mother's matter is not resolved, you'll be worried for me. This time, Uncle Chun, I have a feeling that the Military Commission for Discipline Inspection is interfering. Just like Chief Kai said, this is a good thing. There's just one thing I don't quite understand. My mother's life was erased by the army she was in before she died. Why do you think the Military Commission for Discipline Inspection suddenly launched an investigation? Could it be? Yi Qian's voice gradually trailed off. His pupils suddenly contracted as if he had discovered something big. Even his fingers couldn't help but tremble. Principal Chun, who was driving, couldn't help but take a quick look at her when she suddenly stopped talking and didn't say anything for a long time. He saw that her face was as gloomy as dark clouds, with faint traces of thunder lingering in it. He immediately asked her, could it be what? Could it be that this person has already come to the military? The General Staff Department, the General Political Department, the General Logistics Department, and the General Armaments Department? Could this person be in one of these four major organizations? This was the only way to suppress the matter of her mother being in the army when she was alive. They had the ability to completely suppress it and not let anyone find out. Little Yi, your guesses always make me break out in a cold sweat. Principal Chen couldn't help but tighten his grip on the steering wheel as he drove steadily. He stared so hard ahead that a few more wrinkles appeared at the corners of his eyes. Don't make wild guesses for now. We might have an answer when we get to the Military Commission for Discipline Inspection. You said that the Military Commission for Discipline Inspection didn't investigate previously. Now that they're suddenly investigating, I think it might be Captain Xia who did it. But Captain Xia is a major, so the possibility of him doing it is not high. I'm afraid it's Commander-in-Chief Xia. Yi Qian was stunned. You're saying Commander-in-Chief Xia reported my mother's matter to the Military Commission for Discipline Inspection? This was too shocking. She could believe that Captain Xia had reacted to the Military Discipline Inspection Commission, but Commander-in-Chief Xia's reaction. She really couldn't believe it. But even if he didn't want to believe it, he had to. When he arrived at his destination, Yi Qian saw a familiar figure standing in front of him. His hands were clasped behind his back, his tall and straight figure towering like a mountain. His imposing military aura caused the sentries on both sides to tense and straighten their legs. Seeing Yi Qian get out of the car, Commander-in-Chief Xia, who had been waiting for about 10 minutes, strode over. As he strode over, the golden military rank on his shoulder flashed with a cold golden light. Yi Qian did not dare to let the Commander-in-Chief receive him. He hurriedly jogged over. When he was a certain distance away, he strictly followed military etiquette and stood at attention. He saluted and greeted the Commander-in-Chief, who was walking towards him. His actions were done smoothly and smoothly. He took a deep breath and said in a cold voice, National University of Science and Technology's first-year commanding student, Yi Qian reporting, Greetings, Chief. Happy New Year. Commander-in-Chief Xia smiled and returned the greeting. When he saw Yi Qian's imposing military aura, he was also very happy. He said, You're really early. Didn't I tell you last night? There's no rush. It won't be too late to come over after you rest. This was his son's girlfriend and the daughter-in-law he was satisfied with. As a father, it was only right for him to care about her. Chapter 1992. Hearing this, Yi Qian understood that it was indeed Commander-in-Chief Xia who made the Military Disciplinary Committee investigate his mother's case. For a moment, his heart swelled so much that he didn't know what to say. Commander-in-Chief Xia saw this and thought to himself, My boy really knows Xiao Yi. He even knows that she will be moved to tears when she finds out that he is the one who stepped in to help Sun Xueqing. Isn't that right? Look at how red her eyes are and how she is about to cry. This child, it's not easy. After going through so many hardships, he is still so pure and has the most sincere heart. It can be seen that his boy's taste is indeed better than his. Xiao Yi, you bleed, but not cry. As a female soldier, although you are a little emotional, I still hope that you can be very calm and face everything calmly. Although Commander-in-Chief Xia spoke with a smile, his expression was still quite serious. Moreover, your matter is not your personal matter. It concerns the entire military. As the Commander-in-Chief, if I can't even handle this matter that shames the entire military, Xiao Yi, I don't need to step down myself. I will have to leave with my tail between my legs as soon as the General Assembly Hall issues an order. Yi Qian knew that his emotions were fluctuating. He sniffed lightly and slowly suppressed his fluctuating emotions. If my mother knew about this in the netherworld, she would definitely be very gratified. She knew that the country she was loyal to had never forgotten her. How can our country forget the martyrs who sacrificed themselves for the country? Do you see the Standing Heroes Monument? Our country will never forget the martyrs who sacrificed themselves for the country. Commander-in-Chief Xia's expression changed. From his stern tone, it could be seen how angry he was about this matter. An angry Commander-in-Chief Xia made people even more fearful. A few officers on duty passed by, and when they saluted him, their faces were very tense. Not only were the passing officers' faces very tense, but Yi Qian, who had been following him, was also very tense. When he was angry just now, his heart skipped a beat in fear. Yi Qian had lived 2 lives, but his real experience was not as much as Commander-in-Chief Xia's in this life. Although he had undergone strict training, Commander-in-Chief Xia, who had been through many trials and tribulations, was also like this. It was normal for her to be afraid of the angry Commander-in-Chief. It would be strange if he wasn't afraid. The Commander-in-Chief, who had spoken to Yi Qian, returned the salute and continued to lead Yi Qian forward. She probably realized that she had scared Yi Qian, so her tone became much gentler. I originally planned to contact you on the 3rd or 4th day of Chinese New Year, but I didn't expect you to take the initiative to call Kai Zhizhong. The Military Discipline Committee notified me and directly asked you to come over. Don't be afraid. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Don't be nervous. Relax and have a good chat with the comrades from a military commission for discipline inspection. As long as I'm here, you can say whatever you want to say. Just say it from the bottom of your heart. She reminded him that everyone in Yi Qian was trustworthy and that there was no need to hold back. Yi Qian, who understood, nodded gently. She did not show any signs of fear even when she saw the leader of the Military Commission for Discipline Inspection. Commander-in-Chief Xia had specially rushed over to calm Yi Qian down. When Yi Qian was brought in, he directly sat in front of the surveillance camera, turned on the microphone, and said, "Just say whatever you want to say. There is nothing to hold back." The leader of the Military Commission for Discipline Inspection, who was in charge of recording the conversation, glanced at the Commander-in-Chief and laughed. "Old Xia, are you afraid that we will bend the law for personal gain? I feel very assured with you all in charge. A military academy student facing a group of leaders will definitely feel a little pressured. I will counsel her a little. Commander-in-Chief Xia, who had turned off the microphone, sat down calmly. His calm words made the leader of the Military Commission for Discipline Inspection fall silent. Chapter 1993. Yi Qian's mental fortitude was excellent. She wasn't afraid of the Military Disciplinary Committee leader. Especially when she heard that Commander-in-Chief Xia could talk to her, she became calmer. Please sit, classmate. The military rank of the leader who came in was not low. He was a colonel with 2 bars and 4 stars. He was the highest rank in the military and had a certain amount of power. He didn't walk in with a straight face. Instead, he smiled and introduced himself. I am Tan Bin, the person in charge of asking your mother some questions. I was also the political commissar of your mother's company before she entered the military. Now, I work in the political department and am also one of the committee members of the Military Disciplinary Committee. Yi Qian didn't sit down. She saluted first and said, "Greetings, Chief." Then, she waited for Colonel Tan to sit down before she sat down. You are very similar to your mother. Colonel Tan carefully looked at the military cadet in front of him and smiled. Your mother was the sharpshooter in our company. At that time, the gun equipment was not as good as now. There were no sights or correctors. It was just a plain rifle. Aiming at the target depended on the crosshairs on the gun. Martyr's son Xueqing was not ordinary. She hit the bullseye the first time she practiced shooting. She shocked me and the regiment commander at that time. We thought she had hit the bullseye. We let her shoot 5 more times, and she hit the bullseye again. Wow, she was amazing. She was a true female sharpshooter. The regiment commander and I asked Martyr's son Xueqing if she had practiced shooting before. In the end, your mother gave us an unbelievable answer. Yi Qian, can you guess what answer she gave us? Yi Qian's heart was burning when she heard about her mother's past achievements. She didn't expect her mother to be so outstanding when she was a recruit. It seemed that she had inherited her mother's strengths. That was why she had the marksmanship that even the devil in Q King praised. She shook her head and said softly, "Chief, I can't guess. The time I spent with my mother was too short. I don't even know her as well as you do." This made all the leaders who heard her feel sad. She didn't know her mother as well as other people. Besides, their hearts were heavy. Colonel Tan sighed heavily. That was indeed the case. Your mother told us that she has sharp eyes and is very good at threading a needle. She thinks that the bullseye is the eye of the needle that she wants to thread, and the bullet is the thread in her hand. Combined with the key points of target shooting that the instructor said, it's easy for her to hit the target. It was indeed an unbelievable answer. Yi Qian was flabbergasted when he heard it. Using target practice as a go-between, his mother was indeed a talent. Her expression made Colonel Tan laugh out loud. That's right, that's right. At that time, the regiment commander and I had the same expression as you. I've been in the military for so many years, and your mother was the only one who told me about it. The conversation between the two could be heard in the monitoring room. The stern-looking commander-in-chief, Xia, tapped his fingers on the table. Martyr's son Xueqing had such talent. It was no wonder that Xiaoye's talent was so high. It could be seen that there was a saying, the student surpasses the master. Originally, he thought that Martyr's son Xueqing had sacrificed herself in battle. But after the army erased her life story, he suspected that there was something else behind her sacrifice. Otherwise, he wouldn't have directly asked the Military Commission for Discipline Inspection to investigate. He even suggested that only one team leader and one executive officer conduct a detailed investigation, and then the general secretary would be in charge. To be able to erase the life story of a martyr without being discovered by the military, this person was not simple. Chapter 1994. He said to the Major General, who was the backbone of the Military Commission, "Old song, if the Military Commission does not investigate this matter thoroughly, we will be letting down all the martyrs who sacrifice for the country and the people. We will be even more ashamed of our military uniform." Old song, not only the troops, but also the backbone and generals. I have received a lot of anonymous reports recently. Some troops are really ridiculous. There are more officials than soldiers. The heavens were high and the emperor was far away. They were sure that they were far away and the relevant departments would not be able to monitor him. They are bold and presumptuous. They don't do anything practical and only seek personal gain. Old song. When did the military commission send an inspector? Major General Song was once the director of the political department of the Linchuan military region. He was also one of the leaders of the military commission. Hearing this, he said solemnly, "It's time to clean up. If you didn't report the matter of martyr's son Xueqing to the military commission, all of us here would be in the dark. The superiors are not strict and the subordinates are incompetent. Our mistakes in work caused a righteous martyr to be humiliated like this. Who can tolerate it? The higher-ups are already paying close attention to this matter. We intend to investigate in secret first, gather all the evidence, and arrange the replacement personnel in place. We will make a clean cut." Commander-in-Chief Xia was also one of the members of the military commission. However, because of the relationship between Yi Qian and Xia Jinyuan, he chose to avoid suspicion. Hearing this, he nodded and said, "I'll leave it to you. The Navy, Army, and Air Forces have to be reorganized properly. Otherwise, the military commission will be useless and useless. The higher-ups have given us a death order. If we don't investigate the matter of martyr's son Xueqing properly, the few of us will report it to the entire military and apologize." Major General Song watched closely and asked Commander-in-Chief Xia. Yi Qian is still a military school student, but her information is encrypted. "Old Xia, what are you guys doing?" Only the secretary of the military commission had the authority to look at her information. The leaders and committee members did not have the authority. Although Yi Qian was a reserve member of the Snowfield Brigade, her information was classified and not just anyone could check it. Commander-in-Chief Xia smiled and said, "Although she is a military school student, she is not simple. Martyr's son Xueqing is a sharpshooter, and so is her daughter. Both mother and daughter are not simple. They are heroines in the army." Major General Song sighed with some regret after hearing this. If martyr's son Xueqing is still here, she must be very relieved. Colonel Tan said the same thing in the meeting room. If martyr's son Xueqing was still alive, she would be very pleased. You have completely inherited her merits and become a very outstanding soldier. Although I don't know my mother well, from your tone, I can tell that she's an excellent soldier. I'm proud of her. The atmosphere was as relaxed as if they were having a casual conversation, but Yi Qian knew that the real conversation had yet to begin. What they were talking about now was just to make her lower her guard. Senior Colonel Tan saw that she had a slight smile on her face, and her expression was more relaxed than before. He smiled and said casually, "Yes, we're all proud of her. It's a pity that she died so young." "Chief, would you believe me if I told you that my mother's early death wasn't simple?" Yi Qian immediately followed up with a cold and sharp tone. "Chief, I suspect that my mother's sacrifice wasn't simple." The colonel wanted to test how much she knew about her mother. There was no need for that. Other than the matter about Sun Yaozu, she would tell him everything she knew and guessed. Chapter 1995. Senior Colonel Tan, who really wanted to test her, sat up straighter and looked sternly at the military academy student who said, "Newborn calves are not afraid of tigers." At this moment, Senior Colonel Tan no longer had a smile on his face. On the contrary, his expression was so cold that it seemed to twist the air around him. "Yi Qian, how much do you know?" he asked again. He didn't test her anymore and asked directly. From Yi Qian, he saw the toughness that a soldier should have. He didn't give in to power and disdain to scheme. It was better to speak openly and honestly when talking to them. Yi Qian didn't like to test people. Since the military commission had already intervened and the commander-in-chief said that they were all trustworthy leaders, she trusted the commander-in-chief's arrangements and also trusted this senior colonel in front of her. She looked at the senior colonel with her clear black eyes and replied calmly, "Chief Kai said a lot, In addition to the guesses I had in the past, I know a lot. This time, I suddenly came to the military commission and saw you and the two figures that flashed past the door. I'm even more certain that the person who killed my mother is of a high rank. Otherwise, why would the leader of the military commission be alerted? Senior Colonel Tan crossed his arms on the walnut desk. He was surprised and asked in a low voice. From what I know, Chief Kai didn't say much. Yichien, how did you guess? He didn't say much. I just needed to say the main points. In the face of the senior colonel's domineering aura, Yi Jian replied calmly, now that I have the main point, I can think about it on my own and come up with my own guesses. It's not a difficult thing for me to do, sir. First of all, my mother's life was erased for no reason, and no one in the military noticed it when she was alive. Even the military didn't know about it. This alone shows that this person's identity is not simple. Secondly, your appearance and the appearance of the other two chiefs shocked me. This shows that my mother's sacrifice is not simple. Also, I know that when my mother came back, the Prime Minister personally covered the flag and told the military to take good care of me. However, before the second year of the Chinese New Year, I didn't receive any special care from the military. On the contrary, Chief Kai and the others thought that I died when I fell into the water at a young age. Chief, do you think I can't guess what's going on? I've guessed many things, but I still can't believe it. He had guessed many things, but he still couldn't believe it. It was a few simple and calm words, but they made all the senior officials who heard it feel extremely heavy in their hearts. Even so, she still believed in the army and her country. Therefore, although she had guessed many things, she still did not dare to believe it. Commander-in-Chief Xia and Major General Song's faces sank. How could they disappoint the soldiers who were loyal to the country and the army? Absolutely not. Old Xia, no matter how big the scope of this matter is, let's work together and get to the bottom of it. Major General Song clenched his fists and slammed the table angrily. He said sternly, I don't believe that we can't find the truth after a strict investigation. He was the leader of the investigation team. The highest leader had given him full authority to investigate this matter in order to give Martyr's son Xueqing justice. In the meeting room, Yi Qian gave his own guesses. They were all based on what Chief Kai had said before. It was so reasonable that Senior Colonel Tin nodded his head repeatedly. Occasionally, when he raised a question, Yi Qian would immediately answer it. He would also use his own careful reasoning to rationalize the situation. Chapter 1996. He was eloquent and unhurried. His reasoning was so meticulous that it made people gasp in amazement. However, Yi Qian actually made a colonel and a major general look at him in a different light with just one conversation. This made Commander-in-Chief Xia even more satisfied than he already was. Your guess is correct, Yi Qian. We invited you to the capital to tell you that there is something wrong with your mother's sacrifice. It's related to a major case from more than a decade ago. After hearing Yi Qian's speculation, Colonel Tan only felt that it was extremely terrifying to have a woman like this. He was even more glad that this woman entered the army and was loyal to the army and the country. Luckily, she wasn't spoiled. Luckily, she was still an upright person and didn't go down the wrong path. With her intelligence, if she went down the wrong path, she could still make a name for herself. Since he had already guessed this point, there was no need to be guarded against some words. He could also let her know that the military commission attached great importance to Martyr's son Xueqing's death. We have already become a special investigation team to investigate Martyr's son Xueqing's death. The former director of the Linchuan Military Region's political department, Major General Song, will be the investigation team leader. The military commission's secretary, Lieutenant General Miao, will be the person in charge. The military commission's secretary, Secretary Miao, will be the general supervisor. We will conduct a comprehensive investigation into Martyr's son Xueqing's death. You were never disappointed in the country, and the country never gave up on you. It's even more impossible for a martyr to be humiliated like this after her sacrifice. The country won't allow it. and the entire army won't allow it. Yi Qian stood up and saluted Colonel Tan. His dark and bright eyes were filled with his trust in the country and the military. I've always believed in it. Justice may come late, but it will never die. This is great. Mother, your daughter didn't stand up for you in her previous life. In this life, your daughter can openly walk into the military commission's office and tell the leaders that you didn't die in battle, but were murdered. Yi Jifan, no matter how powerful the people behind you are, no matter how high you climb, pulling you down is no longer my biggest headache. With the military commission's investigation, your good days are over. The big case from more than 10 years ago was brought up again. The dusty history was no longer covered in dust. The truth buried in darkness was only waiting for the sharp sword of the military commission to split it open and let the truth be revealed again. The conversation was over. Major General Song turned off the monitor and praised Commander-in-Chief Xia. Amazing, amazing. This cadet from the military academy was really something. I'm really glad that she's a military school student with the right values. If she had chosen the wrong path, she would definitely have caused trouble everywhere. He was too smart, so smart that it was terrifying. There was no shortage of smart people in the military, but Yi Qian's intelligence was not the intelligence of a flexible mind, but the intelligence of his ability to do things. She had meticulously dissected and slowly sorted out the clues, and in the end, she had actually gotten close to the truth. Listening to her analysis and her guesses made people break out in cold sweat for no reason. Commander-in-Chief Xia didn't like the last sentence. What did she mean by able to choose the wrong path and cause trouble everywhere? Even if Xiao Yi didn't join the military, she wouldn't be a bad person. Even if she didn't join the military, she's still an honest child. Just now, when she said I've guessed a lot, but I still can't believe it, it's enough to tell that she's an honest and righteous child. Commander-in-Chief Xia definitely had to protect his future daughter-in-law. Major General Song still didn't know about the relationship between Yi Qian and family Xia. When he heard this, he nodded in agreement. She's indeed an honest child. He suddenly changed the topic and said with great interest, Old Xia, this is a good seedling. Your side even covered up her information. You're going to train her to be the sharp knife of the army. Chapter 1997. After the conversation with Yi Qian ended, Commander-in-Chief Xia also planned to leave. When Major General Song asked about Yi Qian's future plans, he pondered for a moment and said, I have such a plan. But before that, we have to investigate the case of martyr son Xueqing. I don't want anyone to use their power again and cause the country to lose another outstanding soldier. Yi Qian has an uncle who is now the director of the Southern Province Construction Bureau. Back then, she was fostered in his house. Yi Qian just said that the mastermind behind the scenes didn't dare to kill Yi Qian directly. They might have instructed Yi Jifan to raise her into a useless person. Old song. Although beating the grass won't startle the snake, you can still startle the snake this time. Investigate Yi Jifan's history and let the Central Committee for Discipline Inspection get involved in the investigation. First, remove his official position. Then, pay attention to who in the military will care about Yi Jifan's fall. Then, we should be able to lock onto the target. Then, with this target as a coordinate, we'll start an investigation on the target's connections. At the same time, we'll be able to find out which big tiger is responsible for harming the country and the people of the army that son Xueqing was in. Major General Song thought about it for a while and nodded. What he said is a good idea. Okay, I will have a small meeting with them and plan out the follow-up step by step. It won't be difficult for the Central Committee for Discipline Inspection to get involved. The Legal News newspaper started to publish reports about officials' corruption and bribery last year. Let them go to the Southern Province to investigate. Yi Qian didn't know that Commander-in-Chief Xia's words had caused Yi Jifan's career to come to an end. She walked out of the meeting room and pursed her lips. She seemed to have made up her mind and asked Senior Colonel Tan, who had ordered the guards to come over, Chief, can I ask you something? Yes, why not? Ask away. Senior Colonel Tan, who had a good impression of Yi Qian, smiled, and said, "I've already told you everything about your mother. If you ask again, it won't be easy to answer." Yi Qian shook her head. "No, it's not that. I like to ask Chief Kai. Is he doing well?" They had been talking about her mother just now, so she didn't dare to interrupt. "Kai Zhizhong, he's doing well. Don't worry, he'll be fine. He just needs to stay for a few more days. There are also a few comrades who have a good relationship with your mother and are investigating together with Kai Zhizhong. They haven't come yet. When they come, we can ask them some questions and then let them leave." With Colonel Tan's words, Yi Qian was relieved. Just then, a guard came over, and he followed the guard out of the military discipline inspection building. She always walked fast. Commander-in-Chief Xia only chatted with Major General Song for 2 minutes before she saw Colonel Tan walking over alone. "Where's Xiao Yi? Gone?" Colonel Tan saluted before replying. "She just left. I asked the guards to send her away." "Is there anything else you need from her, Commander-in-Chief?" "Yes, I have something to ask her. Go look for Old Song. He's still waiting for you." When Commander-in-Chief Xia heard that Yi Qian had left alone, he quickened his pace and led the guards outside. It was the new year, and he hadn't given her a red packet yet. As for the old mansion, he wouldn't make things difficult for her for the time being. She would definitely feel uncomfortable following him there. He could only wait for his brat to come back and take her to the old mansion to visit Old Master and Old Madam. Yi Qian had already asked the sentinel at the door. She knew that the commander-in-chief hadn't left, so she stood outside and waited. In less than 5 minutes, she saw the commander-in-chief hurrying out with 2 guards. "It's good that you didn't leave. I was talking to Old Song, and when I came out, you were gone." Commander-in-Chief Xia signaled the guard to drive the car over. He then asked Yi Qian, "There's nothing else here. Do you plan to return to the southern province now? Or do you want to stay in the capital for a few days?" Chapter 1998. Before Yi Qian came, she thought that she would have to stay in the capital for a few days to cooperate with the military commission's investigation. Who knew that they would just let her go after asking her a few questions? Therefore, when Commander-in-Chief Xia questioned her, Yi Qian actually felt a little uneasy. Since she was already in the capital during the new year, it would be rude of her not to go to Commander-in-Chief Xia's house to give her New Year's greetings. But if she were to go, Captain Xia was not by her side. Would it be inappropriate for her to go just like that? There was also one more thing to consider. Commander-in-Chief Xia should not be in the courtyard for the new year. He should have returned to the family Xia's old residence in Beihai's old alley to spend the new year with Old Master and Old Madam. If she wanted to go over, wouldn't she have to go to the old residence? It was winter, and Yi Qian's forehead was dripping with sweat. She wanted to be gracious, but she really could not bring herself to say that she wanted to go to the old residence to give her New Year's greetings. She even felt a little nervous. After thinking for a few seconds, she replied respectfully, "Before I came, I thought that I would have to stay in the military commission for a few days. I didn't expect to leave so soon. Commander-in-Chief, I haven't decided whether to return to the southern province immediately or stay in the capital for a few days to play. Just say what you want." Who is Commander-in-Chief Xia? He was a dignified general, who knew how many demons and ghosts he had revealed with his fiery eyes. It was better for her to be honest and not try to play tricks. She really did not expect to come over in such a hurry. The military commission only found out how much she knew about her mother's case and told her that the people involved were not simple. They also reminded her not to get involved. The entire conversation was completely different from what she had imagined. Everything he said was for her sake. There wasn't even a single word of reprimand, let alone making things difficult for her. Commander-in-Chief Xia felt a little helpless at her respectful attitude. As a very open-minded parent, he had repeatedly expressed to his future daughter-in-law that he was an easygoing elder. But in the end, she was still as reserved in front of him. She lowered her head and looked at him submissively. She did not have the imposing manner she had when she was talking to Committee Member Tan. Could it be that he had no affinity at all? Commander-in-Chief Xia, who suspected that he was not amiable enough, smiled pleasantly and said, "If you want to stay in the capital for a few days, I'll ask your sister Wei to come and play with you." If you want to go back to the southern province to accompany old Shun, I'll ask the guards to send you to the airport now. I won't take you to the old mansion today. If old Sixth was here, I would have asked him to pick you up without hesitation. But he's not in the capital now, so I'll have to wait for him to come back. Commander-in-Chief Xia could naturally see the hesitation in Yi Qian's heart. This child was quite good. He never put on airs in front of the people around him and was open and honest. Family Xia didn't need a scheming daughter-in-law, nor did he need a daughter-in-law who was full of schemes. Family Xia just wanted a daughter-in-law who was as indomitable and broad-minded as a man. Yi Qian knew that Commander-in-Chief Xia must have seen through his concerns. He pursed his lips in embarrassment and said, "Commander-in-Chief, when Captain Xia comes back, I will go to the old mansion to visit old master and old madam." He planned to go back to the southern province on the same day. Okay. I'll tell old Sixth about your intentions and ask him to set a time with you to visit old master and old madam. It just so happens that the two elders have been looking forward to your visit. The guard had already driven the car over. Commander-in-Chief Xia got into the car and said directly, "Go to the airport." Yi Qian felt relieved and grateful at the same time. He felt that Commander-in-Chief Xia's family was very easy to get along with. In the future, yes, in the future, she would be filial to the Commander-in-Chief, old master, and old madam. Chapter 1999. Thinking of this, Yi Qian blushed. She was determined to marry Captain Xia. Do whatever you need to do when you return to Southern Province. Don't be distracted by the conversation with the military commission. I believe you've seen the military commission's attitude towards you, so don't take it to heart. In the car, Commander-in-Chief Xia maintained a gentle tone and told Yi Qian that he was a friendly and open-minded parent. Sixth brother didn't accompany you during the new year. I hope you can spend the holidays happily and don't burden yourself. Dad, Yi Qian, who was still blushing, almost choked on her own saliva. She thought uneasily, did the Commander-in-Chief see through my thoughts just now? The thin-skinned Yi Qian felt her face heat up even more. Commander-in-Chief Xia saw this and laughed out loud. He teased, Little Yi, you can't be so thin-skinned if you want to get along with Sixth brother. Do you still remember what I said?" She remembered everything and did not forget it. Yi Qian, whose face was burning red, nodded. "I remember. I need to be more thick-skinned." "That's right. Sixth brother's skin is known to be thick-skinned. If you want to subdue him, you need to train yourself to be more shameless than him. However, the two of you have your own way of getting along. I'm just giving you a suggestion. I don't know if it'll work." She wondered if being thick-skinned was hereditary. Yi Qian thought silently and felt a chill in her heart. How could she think like that? The person sitting next to her was the Commander-in-Chief. "In front of you, looking at your military rank, I still don't dare to be presumptuous." Yi Qian knew that the Commander-in-Chief was teasing her because he saw through her restraint. Yi Qian pursed her lips and smiled gently. "If I want to be on Captain Xia's level, I need to continue practicing." Commander-in-Chief Xia could tell that his future daughter-in-law was being reserved not because he was not friendly enough, but because she respected him from the bottom of her heart. He suddenly felt a headache coming on. If that's the case, we should still meet more often. Commander-in-Chief Xia was not just saying it. He was seriously considering it. Military Academy students will be assigned to the company to study during the second semester of their second year. Little Yi, why don't you come directly to the military to study? Yi Qian was shocked. To study? She hurriedly said, "If I have time off in the future, I will definitely come to the capital to visit you." Then it's settled. The Commander-in-Chief laughed heartily. Even though he was wearing a military uniform, he still looked like an amiable elder. For some reason, Yi Jian had a feeling that the Commander-in-Chief had been waiting for her to say that. There was some distance between the Military Discipline Inspection Commission and the airport. The guard in the front passenger seat booked Yi Qian's flight for 2:00 p.m. Commander-in-Chief Xia looked at the time. It was only 11:00 p.m. He could still go to the airport for a light meal. Worried that the Yi family would be waiting for him, The commander-in-chief called the old housekeeper and asked him to tell old Master Xia and old Madam Xia that he would not be home for lunch. Yi Qian, who heard the commander-in-chief's call to the Yi family, sat up straight. He was afraid that he would make a noise. The old housekeeper would not ask about his master's itinerary in detail. Commander-in-Chief Xia saw that he agreed and ended the call. He continued to chat with Yi Qian about daily life and matters in the military. Although Yi Qian was a little reserved, she was not so reserved that she stuttered when she spoke. She was in awe of the commander-in-chief. She felt that she could express herself well. She spoke fluently and could answer any of the commander-in-chief's questions immediately. However, Commander-in-Chief Xia felt that she still had a lot of room for improvement. When the guard went to collect her plane ticket back to Nan Province, Commander-in-Chief Xia said earnestly, "Little Yi, you can be in awe of me in the military, but you don't have to be in real life. You can still talk back to Dad like Six Brother." Yi Qian, who almost couldn't hold her plane ticket properly, could only nod. Her back was sweating profusely. "Take care of yourself. I'll come back to visit you next time." Her heart's ability to withstand the pressure from the commander-in-chief increased. Chapter 2000. Uncle Chun felt that this was very good. From their conversation, it was clear that Commander-in-Chief Xia was very satisfied with Yi Qian. Commander-in-Chief is right. You have to respect him in the army and in your daily life, but you don't have to be afraid. Is there a need to be afraid when your family gets along well? After running around the capital, Yi Qian returned to the sniper base at 7 o'clock in the afternoon. She held a cup of hot water and told Principal Chun everything that Commander-in-Chief Xia had said to her. Principal Chun was very happy. Commander-in-Chief is Captain Xia's father and also your elder. His attitude is very important. He paused for a moment, then said meaningfully, "You're valued by Commander-in-Chief. Little Yi, you'll have someone to rely on in the future. Do you understand? Someone to rely on?" But she had never thought of finding someone to rely on. She only wanted to rely on her own hard work to win everything. Yi Qian gently placed the cup on the table. There was a hint of doubt in her eyes. "Uncle Chun, are you saying that my mother's situation was actually all because of Commander-in-Chief Xia? Is that right?" You can understand it that way. After having a heart-to-heart talk with Yi Qian last night, he found out that she still wanted to hide her situation from Captain Xia. She thought that it was her own problem and did not want to trouble Captain Xia. Principal Chen knew that he had to teach Yi Qian another side of her that no one knew, but everyone knew about. Yi Qian, who had heard Principal Chun say something like this for the first time, couldn't help but sit up straight. "Uncle Chun, don't tell me that my hard work today can't even compare to a relationship? A backer?" There was a hint of anger in her calm tone. Why was she angry? Because she had lost too badly in her previous life. But she admitted it. Who asked her to be so useless? What if she lived a cowardly life? In this life, she had worked so hard with her life on the line. Did she still need a backer? In order to reach Uncle Chin's level of sniping, she carried more than 5 kilograms of weight on her hands. Even if she was so tired that she could not lift her arms, she would still grit her teeth and continue training the next day just to be able to hold the sniper rifle steadily at any time and in any environment. In order to be able to figure out the model of the gun with her eyes closed and find the parts that truly belonged to this gun from a pile of parts, she could stay up all night just to reach Grandpa Jin's standard. In order to be able to react quickly, she listened to the bullets as they flew past her. She tried to find a way to survive the bullet's trajectory and avoid being hit by the bullet. In order to reach the peak of overall fitness, regardless of wind or rain, he never missed a day of training. He never raised his hand and said that he wanted to rest because he was tired. In order to become a qualified Special Warfare Special Forces soldier, she advanced and retreated together with the male soldiers. She could do what the male soldiers could do. Even if the male soldiers couldn't do it, she would still grit her teeth and complete it. Uncle Jin and Principal Chun had taught her that it was better to rely on herself than to rely on anyone else. She had been through a lot in her previous life, so she believed in their words and tried her best to only rely on herself. She did not want to rely on anyone. But now, Uncle Chen still told her how important it was to have backer. Was it really that important? Faced with her doubts, Principal Chun was very certain. He also told Yi Qian in a realistic manner. That's right, little Yi. In the future, you will have Commander-in-Chief Xia as your backer. Your future will be much smoother. I'm not saying that you don't have to do anything in the future. I'm just telling you that with Commander-in-Chief as your backer, some people will be afraid of you and won't make things difficult for you. But Uncle Chen only thinks that your future will be smoother. He doesn't think that you don't have to work hard anymore and completely rely on family Xia. Hearing this, Yi Qian suppressed the anger in her heart. Uncle Chen would not say such things to her for no reason. He must have his reasons. She had to listen carefully. Chapter 2001. She had to listen attentively. Otherwise, she would think that all her efforts were in vain. It would be easier to find a strong backer. Principal Chun saw that Yi Qian was unworthy, but he quickly controlled his anger and nodded in satisfaction. As a soldier, emotional fluctuations were the most taboo. After training for so long, if he got angry over a small matter, he would be severely punished. I know why you are angry. You are angry because you don't understand why you work so hard, but it's not as good as having a reliable backer. What I want to tell you is that the reason Commander-in-Chief Xia values you and hopes that you and Captain Xia can become husband and wife is because he first saw your ability, and your potential. Uncle Chun is telling you the truth. You don't have ability, potential, or a certain level of charisma. First of all, Major Xia will not be attracted to you. What kind of person is Captain Xia? His family has power and influence, and he is outstanding and capable. He is worthy of being a young talent. Why would someone like him like a girl who came from the mountains? Why does Commander-in-Chief Xia value you? Uncle Chin said just now, it is also because of your ability, and potential. Why are you angry? And why are you angry? Girl, don't deny your hard work. You should think of it this way. It is because of your hard work that you are where you are today. It is because of Captain Xia that you have such an outstanding boyfriend. And it is because of Commander-in-Chief Xia that you have such an amiable elder. If you are a useless person with a smart brain but no clear goal, Uncle Chun is telling you, you will never be able to get the attention of Captain Xia, let alone Commander-in-Chief Xia. If you don't work hard enough and don't have the ability to be appreciated and praised, how can you get the attention of others? Principal Chun said with a very serious expression. He clearly told Yi Qian that there was no need for her to be angry. The reason why she found Commander-in-Chief Xia as her backer was not because of anything else, but because she worked hard enough and was outstanding enough. Yi Qian, who was listening intently, gradually understood. Just like today, when she walked out of the military commission building, she couldn't quite believe that the military commission had such a good attitude towards her. It didn't seem like they had come to the capital to investigate, but more like they wanted to chat with her. He also understood that Commander-in-Chief Xia was the reason why the Military Discipline Committee treated him so kindly. She had always wanted to rely on herself to find the truth, but the closer she got to the truth, the more she realized how realistic Uncle Jin's words were. Without enough foundation, how could they enter Captain Xia's world? How could he gain the favor of Commander-in-Chief Xia? How could he shake a tree with deep roots and lush leaves? She was glad that she had the chance to be reborn. She was glad that she had listened to Uncle Jin and Uncle Chin's arrangement and put her hatred aside. She would only talk about revenge after she had gained a foothold. She was even more glad that she had met Uncle Jin, Uncle Chun, Lu Tuan, political commissar Yin. They had allowed her to not be blinded by hatred, and she had not been blinded by her past life. I understand what you mean. You are telling me that with Commander-in-Chief Xia as my backer in the future, I shouldn't relax because of this. Instead, I should work harder. That way, I won't let them down. The clear-minded Yi Qian didn't give Principal Chen a headache. He quickly understood his painstaking efforts. Yi Qian gazed at the elder who cared about and cherished him. He said softly, I won't embarrass the Commander-in-Chief. You're tuning in to the warrior lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.